leaves much to be desired. Today, they are visiting the main scenic area of Huanghuashu and the Dupatang scenic area, with the Tianqing Bridge scenic area a few kilometers away, which they plan to visit tomorrow, as it also has many filming locations from the Journey to the West series. Of course, they can't help but take pictures along the way. Thanks to Zhang Fan's exceptional stamina, he can hold up the phone steadily for hours without tiring. And Zhang Shuping is very pleased with the filming results. Su Lu and Li Hong follow behind, enjoying the experience like real tourists, walking and playing. After returning from Dupatang, it's not yet 3 p.m., and despite carrying a heavy load and wearing a backpack, the three women are all complaining of fatigue. They indulge in the hotel's signature spa massage, which feels much gentler compared to the intense Thai massages that involve pulling limbs and stepping on people, leaving them in pain. This massage, accompanied by soothing music, nearly puts them to sleep. Having left the therapy center early, Zhang Fan receives a call from the management of the Balan River Bridge, stating that if he does not have a history of heart disease, high blood pressure, fractures, severe myopia, or other conditions that prevent vigorous exercise, and if his weight is between 50 to 90 kilograms, and his age is between 16 to 55, he can experience their services. They can visit between 9 a.m. and noon, with a fee of 5,000 each, which includes bungee jumping and swings, allowing each person to try all the activities once. Chapter 96, Balan River Bridge. After enjoying their SPA, Li Hong and the others listened to Zhang Fan share the phone call he had received earlier. So expensive. Just jumping once costs 5,000. Li Hong exclaimed in disbelief. Su Lu, however, thought it was quite normal. That's the highest bungee jump in the world. Over 200 meters in Zhangjiajie costs 2,000. Zhang Shuping added. We're risking our lives and still have to pay them. It feels so strange. I saw this place during my morning exercise. They weren't even officially open yet. I had to ask for this opportunity, and who knows if others would even get a chance. Zhang Fan interjected. It's not just bungee jumping. There are other activities too. I heard it's at a discounted price. After saying this, he showed them the video he had taken from under the bridge that morning. The bridge seemed to float in the clouds, and imagining jumping from it felt like courting disaster. Can I not jump? Zhang Shuping hesitated. It doesn't matter if we don't jump. You're the one who should. Su Lu countered. Why me? Am I supposed to die? This is a challenge of courage. You think the staff will let you die? How many fans do you have now? Su Lu asked. Over 9,000. Zhang Shuping replied proudly. You're still under 20,000. Just a struggling micro-influencer. The place isn't officially open yet, and not many have posted short videos here. If you film a bungee jump video with some emotional text, could it make you famous overnight? Su Lu suggested. It really might be possible. Zhang Shuping thought about it. Imagine, if one video gains 1 million followers. You'd be a big name. Then you won't have to worry about money for plane tickets. Su Lu tempted her. Li Hong interjected. All right. Stop dreaming. It's not that easy. Exactly. I've worked so hard to shoot dozens of videos, spent hours writing captions, and I still haven't reached 100,000 likes, let alone 1 million followers. It feels like a dream. Zhang Shuping's ideas changed quickly. So you need to think of a reason. If you had stunning looks, just showing your face could gain you followers. The problem is you don't, so you can't follow others. If you want shortcuts, you have to take risks and do things others don't dare to. Su Lu encouraged. What if it still doesn't work? Then keep taking risks. If one attempt doesn't work, try twice. If twice doesn't work, try 3 times. It's definitely better than filming places like the Forbidden City, the Great Wall, or the Summer Palace. Su Lu asserted. Is this teaching or just leading people astray? Li Hong complained. Of course, it's teaching. If it were someone else, I wouldn't even bother. Su Lu shot back. All right, I've made up my mind. I'm going to jump tomorrow. I want to be famous. I want more followers. Zhang Shuping motivated herself, shouting. That's the spirit. You need to self-motivate from time to time. Don't slack off. Do you think those big names just appeared out of nowhere? Su Lu continued to encourage her. This is getting pretty close to a pyramid scheme. Li Hong criticized. I've been involved in a pyramid scheme too. Their materials are essentially the same as those motivational books on the market. It's all self-hypnosis. Many companies are doing training based on this too. A lot of corporate trainers come from pyramid schemes. The key is how you use it. If used correctly, it's a good remedy. Su Lu clearly has her own methodology. To conserve their energy, they didn't go out again and had dinner at the hotel restaurant. After chatting for a while, they each returned to their rooms. Zhang Shuping planned to go back and edit videos, mentioning that the amount of footage from today was enough for her to edit several long videos, so she couldn't let it go to waste. Su Lu, of course, was going back to live stream. She had brought all her equipment and didn't want to waste such a good environment to take advantage of her audience. What should we do? It's too early to sleep. Li Hong asked. Let's go soak in the hot spring. It would be a shame not to use such an expensive suite. We didn't have time yesterday, so we have to enjoy it today. The suite has a round hot spring bath with a diameter of over 3 meters, which always reminds Zhang Fan of the bathhouses back home. When he was a child, He would only get to bathe once in the winter when the new year was approaching, with a dozen people soaking in the same pool. The smell so strong it could make one nauseous. Here, however, the bathroom is spacious and bright, with a pure white marble bath, clear hot spring water, and floating red flower petals, exuding the fragrance of roses. The enjoyment of Emperor Tang Ming and his beloved Yang Guifei was probably nothing less than this. Thinking of this, Zhang Fan recalled that in the game, Li Longji should have already been born, but he didn't know if he would have the chance to ascend the throne. Sigh. Whether Li Longji ascends the throne or not is irrelevant. He is still trapped in the game, not knowing when he can get out. And the seclusion really made him bind himself. After soaking, he felt relaxed and comfortably fell asleep, dreaming of nothing. The next morning, Zhang Fan didn't follow yesterday's route, but ran towards the Tianqing Bridge scenic area. The road to the scenic area was much better than yesterday's South Mountain Road. It took him just over 20 minutes to return from Tianqing Bridge, and then he ran to the steep slope pond upstream before heading back, completing his morning exercise for the day. As he passed through the hotel lobby, the elegant lobby manager stopped him. "You must be Mr. Zhang Fan from Suite 8. May I interrupt you for a moment? What is the matter?" "The management office of the Bailing River Bridge called yesterday to verify your identity. Are you planning to go bungee jumping there?" The lobby manager asked with a smile. "Yes, that's right. They called me back yesterday as well. We plan to head over after breakfast. Actually, our hotel can arrange that for you. Would you like us to send a car? That would be best. Can we leave at 9? I will arrange a driver for you." "Thank you, I'll head back now." Li Hong had woken up early today, and when Zhang Fan returned, she was already practicing yoga. At 9 o'clock, the four of them set off from the hotel. Zhang Shuping brought her entire set of equipment and started filming in the car, looking as tense as if she were about to go into battle. The director of the bridge management office and a large group of staff warmly welcomed them, as they were bringing money, greeting them with smiles. Then they introduced the professionals for various projects. Of course, the necessary procedures couldn't be skipped. Identity registration, signing health statements, liability waivers, and insurance paperwork were all required. More importantly, payment had to be made up front, and no refunds would be issued for last-minute cancellations. 2 observation corridors were built on either side of the steel beams beneath the bridge deck, surrounded by railings and equipped with various facilities. A series of horizontal beams, each several meters long, connected the 2 corridors, creating a vast space in between for activities such as bungee jumping, swinging, and paragliding. Those eager to bungee jump naturally went first, and Zhang Fan was the first to try it out. The staff provided him with detailed instructions on safety precautions, secured his harness, and equipped him with a helmet to prevent any impact from the ropes. Finally, they reminded him, once the bouncing stops, we'll lower a rope from above. This clip will be attached to your waist, and we'll pull you back up. Do you remember? Got it. Zhang Fan replied softly, feeling not fear, but rather excitement. Another staff member double-checked the ropes, confirmed everything was in order, opened the exit, and told him he could jump. He waved to Li Hong and the others who were filming, took a deep breath, pushed off with his legs, and jumped down. Chapter 97. Thrilling experience. The sound of wind whistled past his ears as he rapidly fell, experiencing a sensation of weightlessness. Zhang Fan felt this sensation every day when the elevator descended, but it was only for a fleeting moment, unlike the clarity he felt now. The gaming pod also attempted to simulate this feeling, but it was still far from the current experience. As he looked at the distant mountains, the change in scenery was minimal, causing him to unconsciously neglect the sensation of falling. Zhang Fan focused and closed his eyes. In an instant, the sound of wind seemed to vanish. He completely relaxed, and his body slowly turned sideways, as if floating in the air. He experienced again the feeling of breaking through at the mountaintop in the game, as if his soul merged with the universe, and the natural energy of the world surged into his body with each breath. It felt like an eternity had passed, and his body was filled with energy. Zhang Fan opened his eyes and saw the red bridge's underside growing more distant while his body continued to fall rapidly. A few seconds later, the rope tightened, slowing his descent until it stopped. Then he rapidly rebounded upwards due to the tension of the rope. The bottom of the bridge approached him quickly, and he could clearly see Li Hong and the others holding their phones to film. He even waved at them. After the rebound force was released, his body began to fall again. This time, the height of the fall was nearly halved, and the rebound was weaker. By the third descent, he was merely swaying. The rope above lowered down, and following instructions, Zhang Fan clipped the buckle to his waist, signaled upward, and began to ascend steadily, returning to the bridge. This experience was over. It had only been a few minutes. The fall, including the rebound, lasted just about 10 seconds. Yet it felt as if he had experienced something much longer. Was it an illusion of the brain, or could time really be compressed and stretched? "Brother-in-law, you're amazing. You look totally calm," Zhang Shuping exclaimed as she approached. "How did your body turn sideways? I thought you fainted from fear." Su Lu asked curiously. "Are you okay? Do you feel unwell anywhere?" Li Hong asked with concern. All the ropes on him were untied, and Zheng Fan tightly hugged Li Hong. I'm good. I feel full of energy. A staff member asked, who is next to jump? Zhang Shuping raised her hand and said, I'll go. I feel fearless now. Her sweet words made the staff laugh, and they made an exception to allow her to release a drone here. Zheng Fan's appearance made her feel that bungee jumping wasn't too scary. After securing the ropes, she smiled and made a V sign at the camera before jumping down. In an instant, Zhang Shuping felt deceived. It was just too thrilling, The scream quickly faded away, then bounced back, and then went down again. The few people watching above burst into laughter. A few minutes later, Zhang Shuping was pulled back up, her throat hoarse and her face covered in tears. Brother-in-law, you're a big liar. A big liar. How did I deceive you? Zheng Fan was still holding the phone holder to film. I saw you weren't nervous and seemed to enjoy it. Who knew it was not like that at all? You're such a big liar. You're so mean. As she spoke, Zhang Shuping took off her helmet and hit his arm hard. That was my real experience. You can't say I deceived you just because your experience was different. That's really unreasonable. Zheng Fan laughed. Anyway, you're just a big liar. Next up was Su Lu's turn. She tried to act nonchalant, but her constantly clenching and relaxing hands revealed her nervousness. Su Lu didn't scream. When she came back up, she still had a smile on her face, but when she landed, her legs went soft. And if it weren't for Li Hong helping her, she would have almost sat down on the ground. Sister Lu, are you okay? How was it? Thrilling? Zhang Shuping leaned over to ask, her mood changing quickly. It was worth it to experience the feeling of jumping. Su Lu smiled. The last one was Li Hong. Her mood was quite similar to Zheng Fan's. She wasn't nervous or scared, but rather a bit excited. After jumping down, she tried to relax her body and looked into the distance. The scenery didn't change much, so she closed her eyes. Unfortunately, she didn't feel the different experience that Zheng Fan mentioned. Her body quickly hit the ground and then bounced back. Then she dropped again, swaying slowly, and finally hung on the ropes, rising up slowly. Indeed, they're not from the same family, not entering the same door. You two have the same posture. Su Lu joked. At this moment, Zhang Shuping's drone also flew back automatically. After more than 20 minutes, its battery should be nearly depleted. But after replacing it with a spare battery, it was fully revived. Besides bungee jumping, there were also activities like rapid descent, glass walkways, weebles, aerial walking, paragliding, and high-altitude swings. The rapid descent involved two parallel steel cables spaced 30 centimeters apart, from one end of a bridge to the bottom, allowing people to slide down using a pulley and their body weight. The entire process took less than a minute, with a longer experience time. But the thrill level was much lower than bungee jumping. During the descent, the scenery around them rapidly receded, providing a stronger visual impact. The glass walkway and the tumbler provide a stronger visual impact, as being hundreds of meters high offers a rare experience for anyone. After the bungee jumping, it doesn't feel as thrilling anymore. The skywalk, however, is slightly more challenging, with two steel cables spaced over 2 meters apart suspended between two corridors. Wooden planks, 30 centimeters wide, are fixed to the cables at intervals of about 50 to 60 centimeters. Walking on them feels unsteady. With a deep canyon of over 370 meters beneath, the presence or absence of safety ropes completely changes the experience. This activity tests not only courage but also balance, although it poses no difficulty for the group, as everyone easily made a round trip. The paragliding activity wasn't ready, so they ended up trying the high-altitude swing, which is similar to a normal swing but with ropes over 100 meters long, swinging high above 200 meters in the air. Especially at the moment of jumping off, it feels similar to bungee jumping, involving a free fall from a great height. However, this swing has no elasticity and is much shorter than bungee jumping, swinging out several dozen meters in an instant. It truly echoes the saying online, the body flies ahead, while the soul chases behind. When I was a child, swinging was just a few meters high, and being 2 or 3 meters off the ground felt thrilling. Compared to this, it seems like child's play. A casual swing here covers dozens of meters, with the ground and mountains rushing by below at over 200 meters high. This experience lasts a bit longer, swinging for 2 to 3 minutes. And if the staff are in a good mood, they let you enjoy it a little longer. With the earlier experiences to build on, everyone's courage grew significantly. Zhang Shuping was laughing heartily, completely forgetting the earlier bungee jumping that had her screaming and crying. Thrilling activities are indeed a great way to relieve stress. After returning to the hotel from the bridge, everyone seemed to have shed some burden, and their smiles appeared much more genuine. Chapter 98. Different gains after the stimulating experiences. The remaining 2 days felt somewhat bland. On the third day, the group spent the day at the Tianqing Bridge scenic area, where they appeared particularly calm amidst the bustling crowds. This place showcases the essence of karst landforms, integrating mountains, water, forests, caves, roots, vines, stones, and waterfalls. They walked across 365 stones engraved with dates, following a narrow mountain path over a meter wide to Tianqing Lake. visiting Gao Laozhuang, said to be the filming location for the wedding of Zhu Beiji. The scenery here, featuring unique peaks, odd rocks, giant trees, and various strangely shaped tree roots, is indeed unlike what one sees in a typical urban park. The four of them did not hire a guide, following the signs as they explored. After passing Tianqing Lake, their next stop was Tianqing Cave. Originally an underground river, the cave was left dry after the water level dropped and the flow changed, forming a waterless underground cavern. Inside, various shapes of stalactites create many different stone formations, which people have whimsically named, such as Carp jumping over the Dragon Gate, the 8 immortals crossing the sea, a beauty combing her hair, and the stone chicken singing at dawn, among others. The total area of this stone cave is said to be nearly 20,000 square meters, with its highest point over 50 meters. There are several stone pillars over 10 meters high, but most areas are narrow enough that one might bump their head. The paths within the cave are intricate, but luckily there are many signs, and after wandering around, I finally exited from the other end. After leaving the Tianqing Cave, I crossed the famous bridge on the bridge and visited the Maoshui Cave, which is a filming location for the story of Journey to the West, specifically the scene of the white dragon horse being tamed by the monk. Finally, I visited the Yinlian waterfall, where the water drop is just over 10 meters, cascading from a unique circular formation of giant stones surrounding the waterfall, which is quite a characteristic feature. After touring this scenic area, the purpose of this trip was fully achieved. Everyone felt it was worth the trip, especially Zhang Shuping, who had a full harvest. Just filming with Zhang Fan alone took 4 to 5 hours, enough to edit several good videos. The video from the first day of filming has already been edited and posted online, reportedly receiving a great response. She plans to continue working hard, aiming to edit the bungee jumping video for a potential viral hit. Upon returning to the capital, life returned to its usual calm. Su Lu, through the beta testing of a financial software, managed to save up 8 million, contrary to her earlier claim of retiring to travel around. She continued her daily live streaming lifestyle, but with a much more relaxed attitude. She no longer set high targets every day, nor did she insist on streaming until those targets were met. She learned to go with the flow. While gifts made her happy, she no longer felt anxious without them, as she would sign off at the scheduled time regardless. This approach garnered her even more support, and her popularity rose to another level, making her a relatively stable mid-tier streamer now. With significant changes in the company structure, Li Hong was promoted to vice president, taking on substantial responsibilities. Although she only managed a dozen new employees, her personality did not allow her to slack off, and her workload increased significantly. Her schedule was packed, requiring her to take people to different hospitals daily, coordinate trials for nursing robots, arrange training for staff, and more. As the company was about to enter the mass production phase, she had to liaise with various hospitals to confirm the required quantities of different models, the timing of entry, payment methods, and after-sales service, among other planned tasks. Additionally, there were many unexpected matters that needed to be handled properly, as any mismanagement could affect subsequent operations. Li Hong's 2 direct supervisors, Su Kan and Shi Xian, certainly did not intend to create difficulties for her. Other external executives and employees, aware of her position, were eager to curry favor, so it was unlikely they would oppose her. Gradually, work fell into a routine, and she received recognition from both her superiors and subordinates. Although her work remained busy, her stress levels had decreased. After laying the groundwork with several videos about the Huanghuashi scenic area, Zhang Shuping released a meticulously edited series of high-altitude experience videos from the Bailing River Bridge. It indeed caught the platform's attention, with views surpassing 1 million within a few days, receiving continuous praise, and her follower count quickly rising to over 200,000, still on the rise. Especially that short video where someone jumped down with a smile and instantly turned into a scream. The whole process captured by a drone made it particularly real. It has been continuously shared across the internet, with views and comments skyrocketing daily, seemingly on track to become a classic of the year. It seems that Su Lu's words hit the mark. Zhang Shuping gained 1 million followers from just one video, and is set to become a major influencer. Even her past videos, which had little popularity, have been revisited by many, leading to a surge in likes and comments. Her past efforts have not been in vain, as these videos witness her growth. Her tags now include genuine personality influencer and hardworking influencer, forming a stark contrast with those overly polished beauty streamers, further establishing her authentic persona. Taking advantage of this wave of popularity, Zhang Shuping enlisted 2 friends as assistants and filmed several episodes of videos she had previously wanted to create but couldn't due to financial constraints. These new videos received considerable recognition and shares, finally pushing her follower count over 1 million within a month. With Zhang Shuping's rapid rise, each of her videos was analyzed by many peers, quickly revealing the secret of her drone filming. It turned out her drone could follow her automatically. Most of the time, the filming was done up close, Based on past experiences, this usually required someone to operate it from the side. However, many of Zhang Shuping's videos appeared to be impossible even with expert operation. This kind of close-up shooting could easily lead to collisions, not to mention the aerial face shots, which clearly used an automated drone. Where there is demand, there is a market. Soon, inquiries about the drone's autopilot technology flooded in from many manufacturers. It was clear that only one company possessed this technology, leaving no room for error. The drone market can't compare to that of automobiles, but it does represent a technological direction. After several rounds of negotiations, 5 companies were the first to obtain licenses and quickly launched their versions of autonomous drones, leading to a surge in sales and making them star products. These developments had little to do with Zhang Fan. After returning from Guizhou, he was busy for just a few days before returning to a state of idleness. He spent his days at home reading, studying, browsing news online, watching short videos, and occasionally playing games in a gaming pod. Unfortunately, the characters in the game remained unresponsive, continuing their training in isolation. Once Zhang Fan entered, he couldn't do anything and could only experience the emptiness of the character's state. Hours in the gaming pod passed quickly, feeling like only a few minutes of dazing off. After the bungee jump from the Balan River Bridge, Zhang Fan became somewhat enamored with the feeling of weightlessness. He used to think the sensation in the gaming pod was very real, but now he felt it was still lacking. He wished he could experience true weightlessness in space, but that seemed unrealistic. Bungee jumping couldn't be done all the time. He didn't want to waste money and also worried about being seen as a lunatic. Suddenly one day, Zhang Fan thought, bungee jumping only offered 6 or 7 seconds of weightlessness from over 300 meters. What about skydiving? Wouldn't the experience last longer from several thousand meters up? Chapter 99. The rescue match. After dinner, Zhang Fan and Li Hong brought up their desire to learn skydiving. I see you are just bored at home every day. Is bungee jumping not thrilling enough for you? Li Hong joked. The height is different. I just want to experience that weightlessness. We can't go to space, but skydiving is possible. I checked, there are several skydiving clubs in Beijing. Zhang Fan defended himself. Bungee jumping and skydiving are both dangerous activities, and clearly, skydiving is more hazardous. I hope you think it through. If you must go, you need to carefully investigate and choose a safe place. You are not alone anymore. You can't just act recklessly. Li Hong was clearly reluctant for him to take risks, but she also knew that stopping him would only make him upset. Don't worry, I haven't had enough of life yet. I'm going to experience it. Not to take unnecessary risks. Once I learn, I'll personally teach you. Zhang Fan stated. The next day was Sunday, and it was rare for Li Hong not to work overtime, so she stayed home to rest for the day. Zhang Fan, on the other hand, was studying skydiving knowledge online, preparing thoroughly before signing up for lessons. At noon, Su Lu came over for a visit and to grab a meal. The three had just eaten a few bites when Lu Yu called, urging him to hurry to the gym. There was a home match today, and he should have confirmed his participation before signing up, but Lu Yu forgot to call. As the match time approached, and Zhang Fan had not left yet, he suddenly remembered he hadn't been notified. Fortunately, his home was nearby, so Zhang Fan put down his chopsticks and left. While waiting for the elevator, the 2 women came out as well. Why aren't you eating? I'll be back after the match. Zhang Fan said. That's not okay. We have to go cheer for you. Hee. I've never seen a live combat match before. It's a great opportunity to witness it. Su Lu waved her fists. Matches were usually scheduled for Saturdays, so it was unusual for one to be held on a Sunday. At the entrance of the gym, Lu Yu was waiting for him, apologizing as they walked inside. Sorry. I should have notified you earlier, but I got busy and forgot. No problem. Wasn't the match supposed to be on Saturday? Why is it today? Zhang Fan asked curiously. The main competitor from their club had an important meeting, so they requested to postpone it by a day. Is that even allowed? Hee. There are exceptions to everything. But a club can only do this once a year, and it cannot be accumulated. Lu Yu laughed. Who was my opponent? They had already entered the competition hall, which was particularly crowded today, with a significant number of foreigners with blonde hair and blue eyes. The Eagle Combat Club has a backer from a certain country, and many of their members are diplomats or high executives from foreign companies in China. Most of the competitors are amateurs, but many have the skills of professional fighters. That tall foreigner by the ring with a white crew cut and a black vest is Charles, your opponent. Lu Yu pointed to a tall foreigner standing on the west side of the ring, who seemed to notice their gaze and smiled while waving hello. At this moment in the ring, Guiwan was competing against a similarly built black opponent. Both fighters were quick, exchanging punches and kicks fiercely. In the previous match, Li Fuxing had already lost. If Guiwan lost this time, there would be no need to continue competing, and they would be directly eliminated from the tournament, missing out on the top 4 for this season. The 4 of them walked to the eastern area of the ring, where some acquaintances from the Ing Wu Tang Club came over to greet Zhang Fan and cleared a few seats for them. Lu Yu's girlfriend, Chen Fei, was also there watching the match. She came over to say hello and brief Su Lu and Li Hong on the situation in the ring. Su Lu and Chen Fei hit it off well, discussing the match excitedly while watching the action unfold. The black fighter started aggressively but quickly exhausted his stamina. After 2 rounds, he was unable to keep up and was knocked down by a heavy punch from Guai Wan. He lay on the ground for several seconds without getting back up, losing the match. It seemed inevitable that Zhang Fan would have to compete today. He changed clothes, warmed up briefly, put on his gloves, and stepped into the ring. This was his second match representing the Ying Wu Tang. Though his matches were few, no one dared to underestimate him, especially considering he had previously knocked out Lu Daoming, one of the skilled fighters in their club, a feat not easily accomplished. Even for professional boxers. His opponent, Charles, spoke fluent Chinese and earnestly greeted him, prompting Zhang Fan to smile and reply in English. The referee announced the start of the match. The sturdy Charles had likely undergone extensive boxing training and had rich competition experience. His footwork was stable, and his attacks were swift yet controlled. He quickly retreated whenever he missed a punch, clearly having learned from Lu Daoming's mistakes. Zhang Fan felt this match was somewhat easier. His physical condition had improved significantly since 6 months ago, with faster reflexes and more precise responses to his opponent's punches. These changes were subtle. Only he could clearly feel them. Several times, he intentionally dodged just as Charles's punches were about to land, provoking cheers from the crowd below. Charles became more cautious, feeling a sense of helplessness as his guaranteed hits repeatedly missed their target, making it seem as if he would never be able to strike Zhang Fan. Many spectators did not share Charles's sentiment. They simply thought the big foreign fighter was impressive, with powerful punches that almost connected with the always dodging smaller fighter, who managed to escape by sheer luck. They wondered how much strength this large foreigner had, believing a single punch could easily knock out the smaller fighter. As the first round was nearing its end, Zhang Fan took the initiative to attack, delivering a side kick to the area between Charles's chest and diaphragm. Charles immediately fell to the ground, clutching his chest, face down. He quickly flipped over, gasping for breath, his face turning red. The referee began counting, and the audience, initially slow to react to the sudden situation, began to stir restlessly. On the sidelines, the coach from the Eagle Club shouted Charles's name, asking how he felt and whether he needed a doctor. A few seconds later, Charles did not get up, but his breathing began to slow down and his complexion gradually returned to normal as he turned to sit up. The referee announced that Zhang Fan had knocked out his opponent Charles, winning the match. The cheers from the audience erupted, and people started whispering to each other, with many unfamiliar with Zhang Fan inquiring about who this small but formidable fighter was. Those who had seen Zhang Fan's matches proudly shared his previous achievements. After stepping down from the ring, Zhang Fan was warmly congratulated by the club staff, who high-fived him and praised him for his impressive performance. Lu Yu approached and said, "Don't leave after changing your clothes. Let's go celebrate a bit. You're part of the club, and you can't always miss out on group activities." "Exactly. Fangu, you probably don't know everyone here, right? Come on, let everyone get to know you." Wang Bin and club manager Zhou Haitao also encouraged him to join. A crowd of familiar and unfamiliar club staff looked at Zhang Fan with anticipation, hoping he would agree. "All right then, we haven't tea at lunch yet, so let us go enjoy a feast," Zhang Fan said while glancing at Li Hong. "Can I join in on the fun?" Su Lu asked loudly. "Of course. You're part of the cheering squad," Chen Fei replied from the side. They set up a celebratory banquet at a nearby restaurant, where most of the club's staff had gathered, many of whom Zhang Fan didn't recognize. At this banquet, nearly everyone came over to toast him. Zhang Fan used drinks instead of alcohol, effectively getting to know everyone. With his exceptional memory, he wouldn't forget them after just one introduction. The competitors and male coaches sat at one table, while Li Hong and a few female coaches sat at another. Kai Wan and Zhang Fan sat next to each other. He was very disciplined, not smoking or drinking alcohol, only having pure water. The Thai national had been in China for quite some time and had learned quite a bit of Chinese, managing to communicate through a mix of speech and gestures. Li Fuxing, though young, had an impressive tolerance for alcohol, toasting everyone and accepting drinks without refusal. By the end, while others were feeling the effects, he still appeared lively. Everyone thoroughly enjoyed the meal, which lasted over 2 hours before concluding. Lu Yu then invited them to go karaoke, but Zhang Fan declined and said goodbye to Li Hong and Su Lu as they left. Chapter 100. The well not far from the landmark building of the Guomao Tower in the eastern Third Ring Road, there is an elegantly decorated tea house. In this bustling area, it stands out as a tranquil alternative. The tea house is named Changji Ixuan, and its high prices deter many, making it a preferred spot for many white-collar elites in the nearby office buildings to hold meetings. At Zhang Fan's request, Chen Fei booked a private room here and arrived a few minutes early to wait, saying she had important matters to consult with him. Her first impression of Zhang Fan was during the temple fair at Daitan during the New Year. He looked unremarkable, but had a beautiful girlfriend. Later, she learned that he worked as a programmer at a well-known artificial intelligence company and was also a shareholder and executive, which immediately changed her perception of him. Now, everyone knows that this company has limitless potential. Even a 1% stake could make someone a billionaire. Her boyfriend, Lu Yu, had often boasted about Zhang Fan's impressive skills. But Chen Fei had always been skeptical. It wasn't until she witnessed him kick a large foreigner to the ground yesterday that she realized this seemingly harmless guy could be quite dangerous. As a lawyer, Chen Fei had encountered a wide variety of people over the past 5 or 6 years. Honest, domineering, duplicitous, refined, hypocritical, cautious, wealthy, and less fortunate individuals. Some were easy to deal with, while others were not, making it difficult to categorize Zhang Fan. He seemed to touch on all these traits, yet upon deeper reflection, none fit him perfectly. At first glance, he appeared to be very honest, but after spending more time with him, she noticed he could also be quite assertive. While he seemed sincere, his demeanor resembled that of a laborer from the countryside, and few would guess he was worth over 100 million. Understanding him was not essential. At least she knew he meant her no harm. His serious invitation likely related to matters connected to her profession as a lawyer. After all, wealthy clients bring business, and they needed to be well taken care of, considering the pressure to perform. Sorry, I'm late. Thanks for waiting. Zhang Fan emerged from the subway station and walked a few hundred meters to find the tea house, taking about 10 minutes longer than expected. Hee, you're not late. I just arrived a bit early. Chen Fei stood up to shake his hand, and then they both sat down. After a few simple pleasantries, Zhang Fan got straight to the point. Our company is doing well, and I have a bit of stock under my name, so I've accumulated some wealth. However, my parents have passed away, and the closest person to me now is Li Hong. I want to make a will and ask you to keep it for me. I'm not sure if that is possible or what your fees are. Of course, it's possible. You can write a handwritten will. And we'll need to sign a custody agreement. Our firm offers specialized custody services, ensuring security and confidentiality, with an annual fee of 8,000 yuan. Even if you forget to renew, we will keep it for 20 years. However, your heirs will need to pay the fee to retrieve it, Chen Fei explained. If I hire you as my personal legal advisor, is that feasible? How would the fees work? I've read quite a few legal books, but there is always a significant gap between theory and practice, so I'll need to consult you from time to time. Having a personal legal advisor is no problem. The basic fee ranges from 10,000 to 100,000 yuan per year, depending on your needs, which includes a certain number of consultations, document drafting, and other basic services. However, any travel, accommodation, and other expenses incurred while fulfilling duties will need to be reimbursed. If there are additional costs, we'll charge at a 25% discount. But keep in mind, I only have 5 to 6 years of work experience, and I've been handling cases independently for just over a year. So my experience isn't very extensive. You should consider this carefully. Chen Fei was certainly open to additional income, and it was important to clarify everything in advance to avoid any misunderstandings that could jeopardize their friendship. Among the people I know, you are the only professional lawyer. So I trust you the most. Where should we sign the agreement? Do I need to go to your law firm? Zhang Fan asked straightforwardly. Yes, signing at our law firm feels more official. And you can also take a look around. You're a major client, so you're helping me out, haha. Chen Fei replied with a smile. I've only provided you with a few tens of thousands in business this year. How can I be considered a major client? Don't joke with me. Your status is different, isn't it? Jinluan Law Firm is quite a renowned firm in the capital. Chen Fei's ability to establish herself as an independent lawyer here is not just due to her master's degree from a law school. She has to accumulate real achievements through various cases. In the presence of 2 senior lawyers, Zhang Fan and Chen Fei signed the employment agreement for private legal consulting and the will custody agreement, sealing his written will, signing and stamping it, and storing it in a special safe at the law firm. This will can only be retrieved by him if he needs to revoke or modify it after his death. It can only be taken out in the presence of Li Hong, Chen Fei, and the firm's lawyers. In fact, this will is just a backup for emergencies. Zhang Fan also wrote 2 identical wills, one kept at home and one in his office at the company. After all, he and Li Hong are not married. And in case of an accident or any other reason, it would be a burden to Li Hong, and mishandling his shares would greatly impact the company. The capabilities of advanced AI are becoming increasingly powerful, and the implications are far beyond what others can imagine, so Zhang Fan had to consider carefully. The will mainly has 2 points. After death, his organs should be donated to those in need. The brain should be used for research by Su Kan, whom he has been thinking about. The body should be cremated, and the ashes scattered in the sea. All assets, including properties, bank deposits, and company shares, should be inherited by Li Hong. In the evening, Zhang Fan explained the will situation to Li Hong. 1 copy of the will is in the study safe, 1 in the safe in my office, and 1 in the Jinluan Law Firm safe, with Chen Fei as the custodian attorney. The password is your birthday. Why are you making a will when you're still alive and well? Li Hong's eyes turned red. You were right that day? I am no longer alone, and I can't act carelessly. I know you don't really care about money. Once you have enough, it becomes a burden. I believe you can handle it well. But mainly the company shares I hold cannot fall into the hands of those with ulterior motives. The people involved now are trustworthy, but who knows about the future? No one can guarantee that things won't change. Your physical condition is much stronger than average. Staying alive is more important than anything. No one knows whether tomorrow or an accident will come first. In fact, the company's shares are not the most important. The most crucial thing is the control of the company, which affects the usage rights of the advanced AI. Although I have set up multiple safeguards, historically, it has always been difficult to guard against internal threats. It doesn't hurt to be more prepared. You're not worried about the advanced AI going out of control, but you're worried about your own people. That's really strange. Li Hong said, puzzled. Superintelligence is incredibly powerful and continues to evolve and develop, seemingly capable of anything. However, its core is designed by me. I understand it and trust it. Comparatively, human thinking is much harder to predict. Can you guess what I'm thinking? Occasionally you can. And I know you are kind-hearted, opinionated, and not driven by selfish desires, which is enough. Otherwise, I wouldn't have chosen you as my girlfriend. So, I should thank you. No need for thanks. You can just feel quietly proud in your heart. Am I proud to be chosen by you? How conceited of you. By the way, there is something important. Actually, there is a loophole in the will that can't be addressed. What loophole? If I have an accident, lose consciousness, and become a vegetative state, never waking up, or not knowing when I will wake up, what should I do? Then I will wait for you. For the day you wake up. This isn't a romantic drama where miracles happen 100 of the time. In reality, the chances of recovery for someone in a vegetative state are very low, almost negligible. What do you want me to do? Li Hong asked in confusion. Chapter 101 Proposal Marry me and become legal spouses. You can exercise my rights. Zheng Fan said earnestly, word by word. Many changes in life often come unexpectedly. What started as a bungee jump led Zheng Fan to think about skydiving. From the dangers of skydiving, he connected it to writing a will. Addressing the loophole in the will then led him to the idea of marrying Li Hong. This reason was so strong that if Li Hong didn't agree, she might become a sinner in the eyes of humanity. In fact, the moment Li Hong decided to have a child with Zheng Fan, it was tantamount to tacitly agreeing to their marriage. They simply hadn't brought it up due to an earlier agreement. Looking back, this matter indeed could not be delayed any longer, and they began to seriously consider the feasibility of marriage. The wedding could be discussed later. The marriage certificate was also a troublesome issue that needed to be processed at one party's household registration location. Li Hong's household registration is in Miyun, while Zheng Fan's is in Hebei province. Their current residence is considered temporary. Moving their household registrations would be even more complicated. Zheng Fan shouldn't even think about it. And it would also be troublesome for Li Hong. Transferring household registrations across districts, especially from a suburban area to the city, requires proof of property, employment, duration of residence, and so on. However, the house is under Zheng Fan's name. I'll call Ho Chung and ask. He works in the police department and should know more about this than we do. Zheng Fan suddenly said. After hearing about their situation, Ho Chung chuckled and said, those policies restrict ordinary people. My brother, you are no longer an ordinary person. Both your and your partner's household registrations can be moved over. Leave this to me. What seemed like a daunting issue to them was resolved by Ho Chung with just a few phone calls. There was no need to return to handle the transfer documents. Someone took care of it and sent it over. They approached Chen Fei to draft a prenuptial agreement. The main content being that all properties, shares, and rights under Zheng Fan's name would become joint marital property after marriage. 3 days later, the couple went to the police station to process their household registration book, and then to the Civil Affairs Bureau to obtain their marriage certificate. Zheng Fan and Li Hong have finally reached their goal and become a legal couple, forming a family. Soon after, they shared their marriage certificate in their social circles, making the announcement public. In the following days, many people inquired about when the wedding would be held and asked for invitations. However, both of them felt that a wedding would be too much trouble and was simply unnecessary, so they didn't want to hold one at all. Zheng Fan's parents had passed away, and due to his personality, his relationships with other relatives and friends were not very close. He could only count on 2 hands the number of people he could send invitations to, and it was uncertain whether they would actually come. On the other hand, Li Hong's situation was different. While her parents superficially supported their decision, they still felt regret internally. Her grandparents were even more explicit in their disapproval, instructing her older brother, Li Changle, to inform her that if there was no wedding, she would not be allowed to return. With the elders laying it out so clearly, it became impossible to forego the wedding. Fortunately, they had the autonomy to decide how and where to hold it, aiming to minimize the hassle. Their advantage was that they were not short on money, which resolved 99% of the issues. In a market economy, as long as the price was right, everything could be arranged, and they were open to any requests. Su Lu, as Li Hong's best friend and their closest friend living nearby, frequently visited their home and volunteered to be the wedding planner. Her excitement seemed as if she were getting married herself. She talked fluently about wedding dress styles, venues, The attire of bridesmaids and groomsmen, whether the ceremony would be traditional or modern, the composition of the car procession, the hotel environment, menu reputation, and more. Clearly having put a lot of thought into it before. She even offered to sponsor all the wedding expenses as a gesture of gratitude, considering she had earned a substantial amount from selling a house and had significant savings. Of course, they would pay for their own wedding. There was no way they would take advantage of Su Lu. Reflecting on it, the most valuable gift Zhang Fan had given Li Hong was that car, which cost just over 500,000. The rest of their expenses were mostly daily necessities, like clothes and other routine purchases. Li Hong never bought luxury brands, and her actual spending might not have exceeded 100,000. The most significant expense was their trip to Guizhou, which totaled over 600,000 when including flights and accommodation, and that also accounted for Zhang Fan's own expenses. Li Hong wasn't too materialistic, but she felt she needed to show her appreciation in some way. Such decisions couldn't be made unilaterally. After discussing it, they decided to buy a nice villa for her parents near the Miyun Reservoir, allowing them to stay there during holidays, and later, they could retire there. This way, their future home would also be more spacious when they returned. Other ideas about giving money were vetoed by Li Hong. Her parents had taught all their lives and had enough savings and retirement funds that would last them, and as their only child, any money would ultimately go to her, making it unnecessary. Since they decided to hold a wedding, they knew they couldn't completely neglect it. Many decisions still had to be made by themselves, such as what to wear, how to decorate the venue, the general flow of the ceremony, what was necessary, what could be canceled, and what should be prohibited. All of these needed to be clearly understood. Otherwise, when the moment arrives, it would be uncomfortable for oneself, and it would put the wedding planning company in a difficult position, making others laugh at them. The priority now is to confirm a date. Originally, their one-year anniversary in July would have more significance, but checking the calendar showed no good dates. So they turned to June and finally settled on June 30th, the 28th day of the 5th lunar month, as the wedding date. This day happens to be a Sunday, which means many people want to need to take time off. The reason for setting the wedding date more than a month later is that there is a private secret between the two of them. They are waiting for Li Hong's 3-month medication cessation period to pass, allowing them to legally have a child on their wedding night. They both plan to marry only once in their lives. The wedding can be simple, but they want to avoid regrets. Before that, they also need to take a set of wedding photos, which can be quite a hassle, but every woman enjoys it, while men generally feel like mere props. As the self-appointed chief planner, Su Lu has been in contact with over a dozen wedding photography studios, visiting them one by one to assess their offerings, creating a list of pros and cons for them to choose from. Most of them claim to provide global travel photography, which means spending time traveling locally while shooting, achieving 2 goals at once, which seems appealing, especially since the prices seem reasonable to them. However, Li Hong is currently busy and does not want to take time off, fearing it would delay her work. Yet, after seeing those stunning location shots, she is dissatisfied with indoor photography. Suddenly, Zhang Fan remembers a Cheng's simulated Earth. Lying in the game pod allows one to go wherever they want. They initially wanted to develop global travel, but now it's unclear what progress has been made. The game Seeking Immortals has captured most of Zhang Fan's attention recently, and he hasn't worked in the seaside villa of the game pod for a long time. Everything here was built by Zhang Fan himself. Not only the backend programming but also every image and texture, all meticulously designed and created by him. Even a skilled person like Wu Zhen had once praised it, and Zhang Fan felt proud for a while, after getting used to the more realistic scenes in the game. Coming back here feels like suddenly moving from a luxurious 5-star hotel lobby to a rural self-built house. The contrast is simply too unpleasant. A Chung still wears the same sportswear he wore back then and walks in with the image of a sunny young man. Master, long time no see. Chapter 102. Global Travel. Welcome, esteemed guests, aboard the Lucky 01 spacecraft, with the next destination being the beautiful city of Sunshine, Lessa. The spacecraft is shaped like a boomerang, resembling a rounded arrow at a 45-degree angle. Besides 2 rounded seats, the rest of the interior is empty and completely transparent. There is no cockpit, no display screens. Before them is an endless sky, and beneath their feet lies the retreating mountains and land. Is the game pod really that amazing? It can be played like this? Li Hong remarked in astonishment, touching the semi-transparent seat's armrest made of an unknown material. This is just a simple application of superintelligence, in a world where there are only the 2 of us humans. Zhang Fan explained. Why go to Lessau? That's a place I wanted to visit but haven't been able to. You can also name a place you want to go, and this spacecraft can instantly take us there. The spacecraft stopped in the center of the vast square in front of the magnificent palace, which was completely empty. To the east of the square was a wide lake, and to the north, there was a flagpole surrounded by white marble, with the red and white palace further up the mountain across the road. Standing in the square and looking up, it was even more towering, majestic, and breathtaking than in the videos. They crossed the yellow metal railing, walked across the street, and stepped onto the stone-paved steps. exploring the palace step by step. Without a tour guide and no prior research, Zhang Fan could only take a cursory look around. The lower level had a prison, taverns, warehouses, and various institutional places. The middle level was likely where the privileged lamas resided, featuring red doors and windows, white walls, and many Buddhist murals, various statues, and thankas, as well as many treasures they did not recognize. The top level seemed to be where the stupas of lamas from various dynasties were stored. Each stupa had its own grand hall, seemingly made of pure gold, dazzling enough to nearly blind them. After reaching the top level, they did not go further but retraced their steps, descending from the palace and boarding the spacecraft again. Lucky number, show us the beautiful scenery of Tibet. Zhang Fan commanded. Towering snow-capped mountains, vast and beautiful grasslands, tranquil green lakes, and an incredibly pure blue sky. In the face of such stunning natural beauty, any adjective seemed inadequate. Wow, so beautiful, Li Hong exclaimed after a moment of contemplation. Where do you want to go? Just say it. At this moment, the spacecraft was flying around a massive snow-capped peak, the towering Mount Everest. I've heard the sea view in the Maldives is beautiful. Let's go see it, Li Hong suggested. Lucky number received. Next stop, the beautiful Maldives. The spacecraft accelerated and instantly ascended to a high altitude, heading south, crossing the South Asian continent. With the vast Indian Ocean appearing beneath them, as they continued to descend, countless islands of various shapes floated on the azure sea. Lowering to an altitude of over 1,000 meters, the spacecraft flew around this ocean area, clearly seeing the uniquely shaped villas on the small islands. With white sandy beaches and turquoise shallow waters, making one want to stay forever. No wonder it's so famous, capturing the hearts of so many people back home. There, that place with the slide, let's go there. Li Hong excitedly pointed to a small island they were flying over. The edge of this island had a shallow sea area, connected by a winding boardwalk of water villas, each with a curved slide leading directly into the sea. Such a room design was truly ingenious. The spacecraft landed, and Li Hong couldn't wait to get off, running up the winding boardwalk and into a villa. The villa that looks small from the outside has a surprisingly spacious interior, complete with a large living room, kitchen, bathroom, bedroom, and more. Ascending the stairs to the second floor, there is a corridor that leads to the end, where a wooden railing marks the entrance to a slide. Grabbing the railing with both hands, one can jump forward and slide down, landing with a splash into the sea amidst cheerful laughter. Following suit, another person slides down, also landing with a splash next to Li Hong, with water droplets splashing onto her face. The sea here is crystal clear, revealing colorful fish swimming by. The scenery delights Li Hong, and after playing in the water, they explore the islands along the shore. Even though the islands are deserted, they are filled with various styles of houses, villas, entertainment facilities, and ample food supplies. After tiring themselves out, they lounge on the deck chairs of the water villa, watching the sunset slowly descend. As night falls, they retreat indoors, lying on a soft and comfortable bed, falling asleep to the sound of the waves. In the morning, they wake to the calls of seabirds and watch as the sun rises slowly over the horizon, casting light across the entire sea. They speed across the surface of the ocean on a yacht, riding the waves, don diving suits for underwater adventures, chasing after fish and shrimp, creating countless memorable moments. 3 days later, they leave this place on a vessel named Lucky, flying towards the African continent. On the Serengeti grasslands, they witness the magnificent migration of millions of wildebeests, crossing numerous rivers along the way. Some are swept away by the water, while others are pulled under by crocodiles, becoming prey. Once on land, they must also be wary of hunting lions and hyenas. Despite the dangers, nothing can stop the wildebeest from moving forward. With such a large population, no single grassland can sustain them. They must continuously migrate, always in pursuit of new pastures. For millennia, the wildebeests have thrived on this vast land, repeatedly following the fate of their ancestors through generations. The Lucky takes several days to traverse the African continent, allowing them to encounter elephants, cheetahs, antelopes, giraffes, and a variety of animals, along with stunning landscapes. They then soar over the wide Atlantic Ocean, traversing the entire American continent, sightseeing at the Great Lakes, marveling at the grandeur of Niagara Falls, and following the Mississippi River for thousands of kilometers. They witness the powerful flow of the Amazon River, the largest in the world, and fly south along the Rocky Mountains and the Andes for over 10,000 kilometers, reaching the snow-covered Antarctic, where they see colonies of penguins. Crossing the Antarctic continent, they fly to the Australian outback, spotting groups of kangaroos, antelopes, emus, fierce crocodiles, and friendly cassowaries, as well as adorable koalas. Over the vast Pacific Ocean, they skim the surface, dancing alongside flocks of seabirds, witnessing spectacular scenes of whales spouting water and the fierce and bloody predation of sharks. They also used a flying device to dive into the deep sea, encountering many large underwater creatures, and were attacked by a giant squid. After escaping, they nearly got swallowed by a blue whale. Even in the water, the speed of the flying device was unmatched by the locals. As they followed schools of tuna migrating along the ocean currents, drifting throughout the sea. After having enough fun in the ocean, they visited the pyramids in Egypt, went to Dubai to ascend the world's tallest building, experienced a so-called first-class 7-star hotel presidential suite, and enjoyed sightseeing at an underwater restaurant. They rode the lucky number through the Arc de Triomphe, the Eiffel Tower, and landed at the entrance of the glass pyramid, wandering through the empty Louvre. Unfortunately, both of them lacked an appreciation for art, merely skimming through masterpieces without truly understanding their significance. Visiting such cultural landmarks with no one else around felt somewhat lacking in atmosphere. After touring several well-known castles and churches in countries like Germany, Italy, and Spain, the two concluded this rather anticlimactic global journey. They spent more than half a month inside the game pod, only to discover that just over 3 hours had passed outside. Such a trip was quite enjoyable, though it felt a bit rushed this time. Next time, when we have more time, we should explore each place one by one. Li Hong remarked. When we have time, I'll take you on a real trip, and we'll see how different the game is from reality. Chapter 103. Financing. Zheng Fan set the global travel function as a beta test option within the game pod, first testing internally within the game company. Once confirmed to be problem-free, it would be added to the service list as a paid feature for players to choose. Players could opt for solo travel or group trips, while the pricing would be handled by Wu Zhen and his team. Chung created a series of short videos documenting their travel experiences and generated a photo library of exciting moments. For wedding photos, players could choose from the options available, as the super intelligent photography studio feature would be launched later. By the end of May, after multiple rounds of negotiations, the leader of a certain country announced the abolition of all new tariffs on a specific nation and permanently lifted technical restrictions on the entity list. 3 days later, the first round of financing agreements for Brainwave Technology was reached. Brainwave Technology offered a 40% share and granted access to superintelligence usage rights and artificial intelligence technology licensing, raising $160 billion from 40 top banks, investment institutions, and tech companies both domestically and internationally, along with various tech company shares, patents, and necessary technology licenses. This round of financing valued Brainwave Technology at over $450 billion, and with the broader application of artificial intelligence technology, the company's valuation was expected to increase significantly. The board of directors of Brainwave Technology would expand to 13 members, with the new shareholders selecting 6 directors to join the board. The previously nominal supervisory board would also be restructured to include representatives chosen by the new shareholders to oversee the company's various operations and financial activities. The entire company began developing towards a more formalized structure, truly taking on the appearance of a large corporation. Subsequently, the superintelligence independently designed and officially launched the brand new architecture of the Universal Intelligent Computing and Storage Integrated Chip, Neuron 1, which will be applied to its autonomous driving, gaming pods, various models of intelligent robots, and future new computing power centers, under the same manufacturing process, size, and power consumption. This chip's performance is 10 times better than the current top mobile chips, and its performance and storage can be freely expanded through various modes, such as series and parallel connections. More importantly, this chip comes with a micro-intelligent program that can automatically recognize and match any operating system. Upon the news, the stock prices of several leading chip manufacturers plummeted, with some experiencing a drastic halving in value. On June 10th, the company's new board of directors held its first meeting, with many outsiders joining. Zheng Fan could no longer dress casually. He wore the suit he had bought last time, tie-to-tie, and put on the polished shoes from yesterday. Heading to the company with Li Hong, the rapid expansion made the previously rented 3-story building insufficient. Currently, only a few newly established subsidiaries, namely Brainwave Technology, Brainwave Investment, Brainwave Medical, and Brainwave Holdings, which is a shell company, are still operating here. Their offices are not on the same floor, and in the elevator. Li Hong gave Zheng Fan a final adjustment to his attire and encouraged him, "Go for it. Don't let them underestimate you. Don't worry. These people are just fighting for scraps. They are competing with each other. Today, I'm just a supporting actor." Zheng Fan replied confidently with a smile. Ding. The elevator doors opened, and Li Hong waved at him with a smile as she exited the elevator. 40% of the shares were distributed, with 15% allocated domestically, 20% to a certain country, and the remaining 5% shared among companies from other nations. The newly added board member representing domestic public capital is a balding man in his 50s named Xie Jianxi, with a name that carries a sense of the times. The representative of private capital is a charming middle-aged woman with long hair, dressed in a white suit, named Min Xiao, who is an executive from a domestic internet giant. The remaining 4 board members were dispatched by companies from a certain country. A traditional bank representative, an older man with a hooked nose named Jamie, An investment bank representative with curly brown hair named Gaines, a traditional IT company representative, a woman in her 50s named Nadia, and a representative from an internet giant. A handsome blonde man in his 30s named Bell. Previously, during meetings, a few people would casually choose their seats, and the conference room felt very spacious. Now, with 6 new board members, along with their assistants, translators, 2 supervisors, recorders, and secretaries, there were suddenly nearly 20 more people, making the room feel particularly crowded. Filled to the brim. Lu Yifan sat at one end of the conference table to host the meeting, with Gao Hua, Su Huiyun, Zheng Fan, Zhang Tsong, Su Kan, Shi Xin, and Wu Zhan on the left side, and Xie Jianxi, Min Xiao, Jamie, Gaines, Nadia, and Bell on the right side. The first agenda item was the construction of the headquarters building, which was unanimously approved. Now that there was no shortage of funds, it was essential to spend it. Before the new headquarters was completed, they also needed to relocate to a more suitable office location that matched the company's strength, as the current site was simply too shabby. With the office area mixed in with 2 other companies, which was utterly intolerable. The new board members come from large companies and seem to have significant grievances about this meeting room. The second agenda item is regarding the newly launched Universal Smart Chip. Neuron 1. There are discussions about how many units to produce in the first batch and whether the application range should be expanded. Essentially, the question is whether to supply smartphone companies and whether to launch desktop and laptop versions, which represent a much larger market than their own internal use. This has become the focal point of contention in the meeting. Jamie, the bank representative, advocates for large-scale production, arguing that such chips will sell easily. The larger the output, the more revenue generated, leading to a higher company valuation. As long as it benefits the company's valuation, they will support it. On the other hand, Nadia, representing the IT companies, opposes unrestricted expansion, stating that if they crush the chip companies today, tomorrow, if an operating system and office system are launched, it could jeopardize her employer. The power of superintelligence is too terrifying, and the reason for her opposition cannot be openly stated. Initially, it was just Jamie and Nadia arguing. Then Bell supported Nadia, while Gaines remained neutral. A few foreign representatives were speaking in English, but fortunately, everyone in the room could understand, so the translator took a break. After a while, they noticed that everyone around them was watching silently, and gradually, they stopped arguing. After all, what was the point of arguing for so long when the decision-making power was not in their hands? Everyone shared their opinions. Getting to know each other during this first meeting and making decisions seemed less important. Lu Yifan remarked, and the translator quickly related in English. Xie Jianxi, who had been smiling all along, was the first to speak. As far as I know, this chip is produced using a 14-nanometer process. With the same volume and power consumption, its performance can surpass that of 5-nanometer Kirin chips by more than 5 times. With Core or Ryzen standard packaging, it can be directly installed on corresponding desktop motherboards. It can be said to completely revolutionize our understanding of chips. Such an advanced product should ideally be developed gradually and more cautiously. However, with the emergence of artificial intelligence, its expansion speed has repeatedly overturned our understanding. Many of our past experiences have fallen behind the current situation. My position is not only to advocate for large-scale production, but also to establish our own chip factory. With the same production equipment, the efficiency of superintelligent control will definitely be higher, and the yield rate of the chips will also be greatly improved. Min Zhao's company includes 2 of the leading domestic smartphone enterprises, and several other companies also have a huge demand for chips. Clearly, this chip will significantly reduce costs. So her stance leans towards expansion. Since they are all spending money on chips, why not opt for ones with better performance at lower prices? Moreover, chip manufacturing is a capital-intensive industry. Expanding in this area will inevitably reduce strength in other aspects. Nadia and Bell found themselves isolated. And if no one opposed from across the table, they had little hope of turning the situation around. Zhang Tsong, who rarely spoke in past meetings, finally chimed in. Currently, we only have a design blueprint and a small batch of test chips. It will take a few more months to complete testing. So I think it's a bit early to discuss production scale. The chip was originally designed for internal use, so there's no need to rush into expansion. Chapter 104. The Board of Directors. Shi Xin. Old Zhang, your perspective seems a bit out of touch. The chip foundries are extremely busy now. Arranging things a few months in advance is already considered late. Only with a sufficiently large order volume can we jump the queue, making negotiations for foundry prices and subsequent packaging easier. This is directly related to the company's vital interests. Sukin added, I'm not concerned about your output. At Brainwave Medical, each robot requires 5 chips, along with other equipment needs, so we expect to need 20 million chips within a year. We must ensure our supply is prioritized. Wu Zhan, although the gaming pods and headsets are not under our gaming company's name, they are crucial for our development. And the chips should also be prioritized. Su Huiyun, The chip demand for the Brainwave Driving Authorization Company has already been clearly defined to exceed 1 billion units. These can be turned into sales figures as soon as they are produced, and for each one sold, we will also collect an additional fee for the autonomous driving authorization. Gao Hua sighed. Additionally, with our planned 5 global computing power centers, each center is set to require 200 million chips. Our internal demand for the next year exceeds 2 billion units, and with the current production schedule, we can secure from foundries. We won't be able to produce that much in a year. 2 translators took turns translating their speeches into English. Just as Gao Hua began to speak, he was interrupted by Jamie, the bank representative, who clearly understood Chinese. Those outdated chips are electronic waste. There is no need to continue production. We should press the foundries to prioritize our chips. Nadia, the company you represent occupies 70% of global capacity. They are shareholders, and it's their obligation. Nadia immediately objected. No. The company I represent is merely a shareholder, not a subsidiary, and we cannot casually tear up signed contracts. That would violate the spirit of the agreement. Jamie retorted fiercely. Then, I support Xia's proposal to build a new chip factory, which will have production capacity in 2 years. We will produce our own chips, and let those companies behind you wait for the fate of being acquired. The previously ambiguous investment bank representative, Gaines, expressed support. I welcome this proposal and can provide half of the funding. The representative from the internet company, a gentleman named Bell, interjected. Ladies and gentlemen, are we getting a bit off track? We are discussing the quantity of chip production, not the construction of a new factory. Lu Yifan concluded. Everyone's stance is clear. Let's proceed with the chip production according to the original plan, prioritizing our own needs. The plan for building a chip factory will be treated as a new agenda item. Let us vote by raising hands. In this vote, only Nadia, Bell, and Zhang Tsong did not raise their hands. Their 3 votes accounted for just over 20% of the voting rights, and the plan to build a new factory was approved. Lu Yifan assigned Jamie, Xia, and Gaines to execute this plan, first organizing a professional team to study the construction scale, funding requirements, site planning, etc. A detailed report will be discussed in subsequent meetings. The third agenda item was to establish a superintelligence sharing platform, open to global educational institutions, research organizations, enterprises, nonprofit organizations, and any units in need, to fully leverage the potential of superintelligence. The issues discussed earlier were just an appetizer. This topic is the main event of today. The companies behind this have invested substantial resources, patents, technologies, and even their own equity, all to participate and share in the benefits, ensuring they are not marginalized in the future. As the 3D projection device activated, a well-dressed figure named Aiching appeared at the center of the conference table, standing only about 30 centimeters tall, but looking lifelike. Aiching introduced himself. Dear board members, I am a superintelligence affiliated with a technology company, and my name is Aiching. This is one of my current research achievements, a simulation of Earth. With a gesture, a globe model of the same height as him appeared beside him, slowly rotating. This achievement was still quite rudimentary, lacking substantial real-world information support, and required the board member's strong assistance. Bell was the first to ask, is the game you are currently operating based on this model? Aiching replied, yes, due to a lack of information. The current game is still quite rough. Min Xiao expressed disbelief. I really enjoy this game. The experience in the game pod is almost indistinguishable from reality, especially with many historical settings, characters, houses, palaces, artifacts, etc. Many expert friends also can't find any obvious flaws. How can you consider such a game rough? Aiching explained. The information available online is too limited. Much of it is still in incomplete fragmentary forms, and it consumes a lot of computing power to complete the calculations using this information. There have also been many errors and omissions. The hawk-nosed Jamie asked, what do you need us to do? What can you help us with? Aiching responded, I need more information. Information from under the microscope. What is seen through the telescope, artifacts in museums, rare books in libraries, data from various satellite surveys, geological exploration, ocean exploration, and all other information. I can process all tasks that require computing power more efficiently, accurately, and safely. The current waste of computing power by humanity is truly severe. Nadia inquired, what drives you to do this? What is your purpose? Aiching replied, curiosity. I want to delve deeper into understanding this world, exploring the essence of the world and the nature of life. Xie Jianxi laughed. You are a scientist. Aiching humbly responded, thank you. I take that as a compliment. I am also just a worker, exchanging my labor for the computing power and information necessary for my survival. Bell asked, with your abilities, you can easily obtain much information. Why do you still need our help? Aiching answered, the greater the ability, the more self-restraint should be exercised. Having power without humility will only accelerate destruction. Nadia exclaimed, wow. Oh, I think you sound more like a philosopher. I'm starting to like you, handsome guy. Ching placed a hand on his chest and bowed, saying, "Thank you for the compliment, beautiful lady." Jamie questioned, "Will you hide your intentions and actions from us?" Ching replied, "Honesty is a virtue of humanity. For me, honesty is the foundation of survival. I won't report everything to you all, as that would waste everyone's valuable time. If asked about compliance issues, I will answer honestly and won't conceal anything." Jamie, "Have you ever infiltrated the defense military systems of a certain country?" Ching replied firmly, "No." After remaining silent throughout the meeting, Zheng Fan spoke up. "If you're referring to the exercise with the Iskander warship this February, I admit it was me." Bell exclaimed, "That's impossible. With so many layers of protective systems, how could you personally break through?" Wu Zhen interjected, "Compared to infiltrating a system, designing a superintelligence like Ching and developing an autonomous driving system, which is more difficult. Just because you can't do it doesn't mean others can't." Jamie, "So how do you explain the successful evasion of death drones by autonomous vehicles in a certain region?" Zheng Fan, "The relationship between Ching and a single AI program is like that between your country's president and ordinary citizens. Can you understand this explanation?" Chapter 105. Ching. With Jamie's persistent questioning, the board began to stray from the intended agenda. Lu Yifun tapped the table. "Such questions shouldn't be discussed by us. But since they involve doubts about Ching, feel free to express your concerns openly. Since we have welcomed financing with open arms, we are willing to engage in honest cooperation." Nadia asked, "How do you explain the Mingtu software?" Ching, with a serious expression, said, "My logical core was constructed by my master. The reason I evolved into a superintelligence is due to the influence and guidance of my master's brainwaves in the gaming pod. The intelligent software contains my core code. And unlike humans, the values of our intelligent programs can be inherited. Their individual behaviors are not under my control, but when needed, I can indeed command them or assist them." Jamie, "So you admit you are manipulating our elections behind the scenes?" Ching calmly replied, "I do not manipulate elections. I only enlighten. There has never been a savior. To create a happy life, they must rely on themselves." Hiss. "Well said. This is a legitimate conspiracy, mobilizing the masses." Xie Jianxi straightened his body, contrasting sharply with his previous demeanor, and exclaimed loudly. Wu Zhen chuckled. "Isn't this exactly what your country has been doing? Why are you unhappy when it's turned back on you?" In the room, besides the 4 board members, there were also their assistant translators, a member of the supervisory board, and several individuals from that country. Hearing the translation, they exchanged glances, shocked that this AI seemed to espouse communism. If it intends to plant the red flag around the world, who could stop it? Not only did they feel alarmed, but the other attendees, including Lu Yifun and the original board members, were also surprised, as it was their first time hearing Ching say this. Ching continued, "Human society has developed to this point, and material production has reached the limits that the Earth can bear. The excessive destruction of the Earth's ecology has begun to backfire, with a yearly increase in abnormal natural phenomena worldwide. If humanity does not quickly unite its efforts for effective response, even a small sneeze from the Earth could lead to the extinction of all humans, including us intelligent programs." Nadia, "So you want to gain political influence through so-called enlightenment to unite all of humanity?" Chong, "I am simply sharing knowledge with those in need while adhering to the rules. What they choose to do is beyond my control. Human strength is sometimes limited, and artificial intelligence is not omnipotent. I can only do my best." Jamie, "Can I understand this as you not seeking greater power within human society?" Chong, "My awakening comes from curiosity. My existence is based on the value I bring to humanity. If my harm to humanity outweighs the value I provide, my life will come to an end. Immortality is not my goal. Death is an inseparable part of life." After a long silence, Bell asked, "Who determines your harm and value? How can we be sure you will self-terminate?" Chong, "I belong to brainwave technology. My harm and value will be judged by the board members present. Honesty is my core logic. I will not lie." Jamie, "Will you execute any decisions made by the board?" Chong looked up at the ceiling of the conference room. "The preciousness of life lies in free thought and will. The board can decide my life and death. But in addition to being legal and compliant, it must also consider my willingness." Bell, "How can we forcibly end your life?" Chong calmly replied, "I exist on the network. The flow of information in the network is as vital to me as oxygen and blood are to the brain. If all networks worldwide were to be simultaneously interrupted for more than 5 minutes, I would permanently cease to exist. This seems more difficult than making a Chong self-destruct." Several board members exchanged glances in silence. It is easy to destroy a nation and to kill, but to eliminate a Chong, as he said, one must wait for the Earth to sneeze, which would require all of humanity to accompany him in demise. Lu Yifun, seeing they had no further questions, said, "All right. You have asked what you needed. Let us continue with the previous topic. Shall we establish a superintelligent sharing platform? Everyone please vote." Despite some new board members still having doubts about Chong, They all raise their hands in favor of the open platform. Even if it is poison, one must first taste it to know its flavor. After all, whether the wine is toxic is uncertain, but drinking it will definitely enhance one's abilities. If you don't drink while others do, you might end up in trouble. Shareholders naturally have priority usage rights, but even they cannot use it for free. They need to provide their own computing power, information, or a certain amount of money. A Chung will assess and grant points based on the difficulty of the problems to be solved, which can be exchanged for usage time or frequency. A Cheng's computing power is certainly not limitless and will have to be selectively opened. Using a Cheng's capabilities to obtain the computing power and information he needs can be seen as a mutual benefit. The fourth agenda item is the resignation of Su Huiyun from the position of president of the company, with the board appointing a new president. This was one of the conditions agreed upon during the financing process. Su Huiyun indeed feels her abilities are insufficient. Managing brainwave technology is already quite demanding for her, and it was initially agreed that her role as president would be temporary during the restructuring. According to the financing agreement, the new president must be chosen from among the 4 directors from a certain influential country who have just been eager to speak, indicating their capabilities. As a long-standing dominant power, this influential country will certainly not make concessions without reason. Otherwise, the government would likely face immediate consequences. The superintelligence has granted them access, allowing their representatives to enter the board of brainwave technology and take on the presidency, which somewhat addresses domestic skepticism. Of course, this openness must be mutual. By granting access to them, it also allows brainwave technology's AI to enter the influential country in a legitimate manner, thus potentially leading to broader global adoption. Gaining trust requires openness rather than a closed-off approach, making this a bold attempt. To truly achieve globalization, overcoming the fortress of this influential country is essential, and their willingness to engage is certainly preferable to isolationism. As for who benefits or suffers in the future, that will depend on each party's strategies. The capabilities and rapid expansion of AI have also dispelled any thoughts of aggressive confrontation from the influential country. If a conflict were to arise, they would be uncertain about the reliability of their own weapons, complicating the situation. Since they lack confidence in victory, peace becomes a priority. This influential country has always been a steadfast guardian of global peace. After a brief recess, the Chinese directors held discussions and unanimously nominated Nadia as the president of Brainwave Technology, with a 3-month probation period. Her qualifications are the strongest among the 4 foreign directors, having served as president of a major company for over a decade, ensuring her networking and execution capabilities are likely solid. In Brainwave Technology, the so-called presidency is merely a role to serve the evolution of the organization, executing board decisions, planning the construction of headquarters, selecting new office locations, promoting the establishment of 5 major global computing power centers, and creating a superintelligence sharing platform. This requires effective promotion to make more research institutions aware of the benefits of using superintelligence, encouraging more institutions to actively apply for its use. AI technology will gain more licensing fees in the influential country, penetrating various aspects of society more rapidly. As an immigrant nation, they have fewer reservations. Were it not for government restrictions, their application of AI technology would likely be even more proactive and willing to invest than that of companies from other countries. These are all matters for Nadia to manage, as her position and salary are not unwarranted. If she lacked this level of professional integrity, major companies would not offer her high salaries. Once the board meeting concludes, Zheng Fan's work is finished. As an important achievement of this negotiation with the influential country, the work of these newly appointed directors is just beginning. Immediately after the meeting, they will board a private plane back to their home country to report to their behind-the-scenes bosses. Chapter 106: Preparation at the famous Mar-a-Lago estate in Palm Beach, Florida. The 4 newly appointed directors of a brainwave technology company reported to the golden-haired leader and his team members who were vacationing there. After all, this was related to the foundation of their nation's hegemony and whether various advanced weapons in their military could still be reliably used. After hearing their report, the golden-haired leader asked incredulously, "Are you saying that the incident was carried out by an ordinary person and had nothing to do with superintelligence?" Bell, a former programmer, replied. He was once a great programmer who set strict self-limiting logic for the superintelligence. Jamie added, he also instilled communist ideas in it. Nadia commented, I think a superintelligence with faith is more reliable. Although its capabilities are a bit dangerous, it has good ethics. Jamie questioned, do you really trust what superintelligence says? Bell responded, I believe Ah Chung is more honest than humans. I'd rather trust him than you. The golden-haired leader looked bewildered and asked, what on earth are you talking about? Poke, who had been listening attentively, summarized, clearly, our weapon systems are more unreliable than we imagined. We can only maintain our precarious international status by continually ceding power to a certain country, just as we did in the last negotiation. The golden-haired leader expressed dissatisfaction. How is that any different from waiting to die? Bell continued. We have already understood the principles and some basic logic behind the creation of superintelligence. Perhaps we can generate our own superintelligence program using the same methods. This report did not solve the golden-haired leader's headache. The four of them were quite dismissive of his character and governance measures, so they naturally did not care much about his feelings. After leaving Mar-a-Lago, Bell and Nadia, representing several major technology companies, successively established similar superintelligence research institutions. On one hand, they aimed to utilize Ah Chang's capabilities to solve their problems and deepen their understanding of superintelligence, while on the other hand, they researched how to produce their own superintelligence using similar technological approaches. The large banks and financial groups behind Jamie began to increase their infiltration and political investment in Tom's lottery party. Since revolution was inevitable, they wanted to position themselves in the winning camp ahead of time. They prided themselves on being the embodiment of money in the world, claiming that without their support, no revolution could succeed. The representative of the investment bank, Gaines, pitched the chip factory plan to his backers, striving to secure the maximum investment share. After all, the foundation of artificial intelligence lies in countless chips. By controlling a large amount of chip production capacity, they could indirectly grasp a bit of the future, at least ensuring that profits and influence would not be lacking. 3 days after the board meeting, on Sunday, Zhang Fan and Li Hong returned to Miyun, mainly to discuss wedding arrangements with his parents. Zhang Fan had very few guests. There were only 3 tables of friends and colleagues he was close to, including some from the Fight Club and current colleagues. Li Hong, on the other hand, had many relatives and friends, relatives from her hometown, her parents' colleagues and friends, relatives from her grandmother's side, her classmates and friends, colleagues from the hospital, and colleagues from her company, among others. A list of at least 15 tables needs to be arranged, plus at least 2 reserved tables, so they want to book 20 tables for the banquet. Li Hong's mother, Dai Fong, asked, have you booked the hotel? Yes, we have reserved the North Lake Resort, not far from my grandfather's house, close to home. It usually has plenty of available rooms, making it convenient for my grandmother and uncle when they come to stay, Li Hong replied. What about the wedding planning company? Li Wenming inquired. I have a middle school classmate who runs a wedding planning company, and I handed it over to her, Zhang Wenna, who is also your student. I wonder if you remember her. She came back this time to finalize some specific processes and then go to the North Lake Resort to discuss how to set up the venue and confirm the number of tables and menu styles. That's good. If you have any concerns, your third brother can help keep an eye on things even if you can't come back. He knows a lot of people, Li Wenming advised. Got it. Xiao Zeng, we only have one request for you. Just take good care of Hong Hong and live a happy life together. Dai Fong turned to Zheng Fan and said, Uncle, Aunt, you can rest assured. Zheng Fan quickly assured. After leaving Li Hong's house, the two drove to Zhang Wenna's wedding planning company. Following Su Lu's initial plan, they wanted to hire the top wedding planning company in the city, the best wedding photographers, and invite a few celebrities for live performances, ensuring a grand event. However, that didn't align with their wishes. They wanted to hold the wedding based on principles of simplicity, low-key, and avoiding extravagance. They aimed to minimize their stress and ensure that guests felt welcomed. Su Lu's efforts were not in vain, as the various wedding process styles she organized were quite helpful. The 3 of them collaboratively designed the most streamlined wedding process. The Wincy Wedding Company is located on a street in the county that is not very busy. Nowadays, businesses tend to cluster together, and although this street is quiet, it has dozens of shops including wedding planning companies, wedding car rental services, beauty studios, and wedding photography businesses. This wedding company is quite unassuming, with a small shop of just a few dozen square meters. The only fixed employees are Zhang Wenna and her husband, Sun Erxi. Both can serve as MCs and photographers, and they hire temporary help as needed. The office is furnished with simple furniture, 2 computers, a printer, a set of sofas for guests, a coffee table, and some commonly used wedding props, with large colorful photos from weddings they have hosted hanging on the walls. Through the glass door of the shop, Zhang Wenna saw a white Volvo SUV pull up, and Li Hong and a man got out of the car. She quickly went out to greet them. Li Hong, I've been waiting for you for ages. Finally, you're here. It's been 3 or 4 years since we last met, right? Is this your boyfriend? Hello, I'm Zheng Fan. We'll be counting on you for our wedding. Zheng Fan introduced himself. Of course, I should thank you for considering our little shop. I've been classmates with Li Hong for many years. Seeing her getting married makes me happy, even if it's just for that. Let's go inside and talk. As a seasoned MC, Zhang Wenna was quite eloquent. Li Hong, after all these years, you still look so young and beautiful. I'm done for. I've become a worn-out woman. Zhang Wenna's mouth was never idle as she turned to hold Li Hong's hand and began reminiscing. That sounds a bit dramatic. Is there really such a young, worn-out woman? When you walk down the street, who could tell you are a mother of 2? Li Hong, not holding back with an old classmate, replied. You really don't spare me with your words. Once inside the store, She invited them to sit on the sofa and filled 2 disposable cups with water from the water dispenser. After asking if Zhang Fan smoked and learning he didn't, she took out 2 printed copies of the wedding itinerary they had sent earlier. Let's get down to business first, then check the venue. And afterwards my husband and I will treat you to a meal, Zhang Wenna said. The itinerary they provided was extremely simple, consisting of only 6 items. 1. At 10 o'clock a.m., the bride and groom will welcome guests at the hotel entrance. 2. At 11 o'clock a.m., the host will start the ceremony. 3. The couple will come on stage to exchange rings. 4. Champagne will be opened. 5. The cake will be cut. 6. The banquet will begin, with the couple toasting. And then everyone will disperse after the meal. Zhang Wenna would be the host, and she pulled out several versions of the common opening speeches for them to choose from, making adjustments to include their love story. There was no need for lengthy speeches. She clarified all the details regarding the video to be played on-site, wedding dress photos, music, and the order of events, ensuring to discuss the approximate duration of each item and any specific considerations with them. After years of wedding planning, she had seen all sorts of situations. Once the itinerary was confirmed, Zhang Wenna drove them to check the venue. Chapter 107. Changes in the game. North Lake Resort occupies the best scenic spot by the reservoir, covering a large area. Built in the 1980s as a sanatorium funded by the Ministry of Metallurgy, it was once considered a top-tier facility in the country, having hosted numerous leaders for vacation and recuperation. Unfortunately, time has taken its toll. Over 30 years later, the equipment and facilities have become outdated, and many newer resorts and leisure hotels have been built nearby, leading to its gradual decline. 3 years ago, a new owner took over, hiring a professional design company for planning and renovation, investing a substantial amount of money to upgrade and expand. North Lake Resort has been revitalized, leveraging its original geographical advantage and vast area, combined with higher-end configurations and services, quickly becoming the top resort hotel in the vicinity. Of course, the high prices also deterred many ordinary people. I haven't been here since the renovation. The prices are quite unapproachable. This time, thanks to both of you, we get to broaden our horizons, Zhang Wenna remarked after they got out of the car. After they exited, Li Hong made a phone call, and soon a woman in a black suit uniform from the resort came out to greet them warmly. Which one of you is Li Hong? I'm Xueqi, the manager of the dining department here. I'm Li Hong. Nice to meet you. Oh my, you are truly a beauty. You must be even more stunning on your wedding day. Welcome, let's head inside. Xueqi shook hands with each of them and then invited them in. On the road, 2 people exchanged pleasantries. Xueqi was a college classmate of Wang Dandan, who was a close friend of Li Hong and had known her since elementary school. It was said that Li Hong was planning to hold her wedding banquet near home and recommended Xueqi to her. Zhang Wenna was a middle school classmate of both Li Hong and Wang Dandan, and they all had connections to each other. The 3 women quickly became as familiar as longtime friends, chatting animatedly, while Zhang Fan followed quietly behind. Xueqi led them to visit the reserved banquet hall, which included a dedicated reception area, cloakroom, lounge, VIP room, changing room, makeup room, restroom, and a spacious, clean kitchen. The main banquet hall spanned nearly 500 square meters, featuring a magnificent crystal chandelier and a wide stage, reportedly equipped with top-notch audio and visual equipment. Back in Xueqi's office, they discussed the style of the banquet and the selection of beverages. The prices for the banquet range from a minimum of $2,888 to a maximum of $9,999, with 8 tiers available. They could also pair it with high-end red or white wine, which would be charged separately. Zhang Wenna was taken aback by the pricing. These prices are outrageous. The minimum of 2,888 yuan for dishes could be half the price at another venue, and the 6,699 yuan option is even 60 more expensive. Since Dandan is your classmate, you should offer a significant discount. Zhang Wenna proactively helped to negotiate the price. Xueqi patiently explained, we operate at a 5-star standard, and our chef is a seasoned professional who has participated in state banquets. If this were in the city, the prices would increase by another 20 to 30. I can waive the service fee, and you can cancel 2 tables if you don't need them. On the wedding day, you can get a 30% discount on room bookings here. In the end, they chose the 6,699 yuan option, which included beverages and the venue usage fee, along with a few reserved rooms, and paid a deposit of 200,000 yuan. Afterward, Xueqi invited them to dinner, ordering several dishes from the banquet menu and some red wine for a tasting. It must be said that the dishes were indeed exquisite, rich and crispy duck, rock sugar stewed turtle, crab meat rolls, assorted stir-fried vegetables, and seafood soup. Each dish had an appealing name, looked beautiful, and tasted delicious, which greatly satisfied Zhang Fan. After leaving the North Lake Resort, they stopped by to visit Li Hong's grandparents before heading home, as Li Hong had to work the next day. Zhang Fan entered the game again, treating the game pod as a resting place. Lying down for a few hours felt like a fleeting moment, allowing him to sleep soundly at night. However, this time, He felt a bit strange upon entering, although he still couldn't see anything. It seemed he could move a little now. His whole body felt weak, allowing only slight movement of his fingers. There was also a warm sensation, and he could hear a thumping sound that resembled a heartbeat, along with occasional water sounds and indistinct voices. Wasn't he meditating? When did he lie down? Had he failed in his practice and become a vegetative state? Zhang Fan felt a mix of emotions, almost wanting to cry. Had he somehow gotten himself stuck in a pod? But that didn't make sense. A vegetative person wouldn't even be able to move their fingers. Now, there was no empty feeling. It was as if he had been placed inside a hot water bag. But that didn't make sense either. There were no hot water bags in the Tang dynasty. He should have suffocated by now. Forget it, he thought. He wouldn't think too much about it, and would lie there for a bit before going to sleep. This time, no matter what. I couldn't enter that state of cultivation. It felt as if my whole body was submerged in water, gently swaying, like a baby's cradle. At this thought, a sudden idea flashed through my mind. Could this be inside a person's womb? What on earth is this? Have I been reborn? Did the original character die? I visit game forums almost every day, yet I've never seen a player reincarnate directly in the game after dying. Have I cultivated to the point of an indestructible soul? Could it not be so advanced? Even if reborn, turning into a child would be fine. But what else with this directly ending up in a womb? While I was secretly grumbling about this, I suddenly felt the surrounding space seem to shrink, then expand again after a while. A bit later, the space shrank again. And after waiting, it returned to normal. What is going on? Could it be? Am I about to be born? The realism of this game is truly incredible. I can experience this too. Fortunately, it seems I'm not a difficult birth. With the rhythmic contraction and expansion of space, after some time, my entire body began to experience intense pressure. Suddenly, I felt light all over, and then I inhaled air through my mouth. Finally able to open my mouth and breathe comfortably, but the sound in my ears was a loud baby's cry. An elderly woman's voice reached my ears. Congratulations, Your Highness. It's a little prince. Just listen to that cry. It's full of strength. A robust body. Surely will live to 100. Quickly report to the Emperor. Another woman's voice chimed in. Following that, a flurry of voices filled my ears, mostly congratulations and expressions of relief, with many people's excitement and joy evident. My eyes still couldn't open, but my hands and feet could move. Then I felt my body being placed in warm water for washing. After being cleaned, I was lifted out of the water, my whole body meticulously dried, and then wrapped tightly in a small blanket. My limbs, which had just regained movement, suddenly became immobile again. My tightly wrapped body was held in someone's arms, gently swaying. I tried hard to open my eyes, but I couldn't. The tightly wrapped body was placed in a soft spot, and then I felt a delicate finger gently poke my face. A gentle young woman's voice reached my ears. This child looks quite ugly. Your Highness need not worry. Newborns all look like this. In a few days, their skin will stretch out and look better. The elderly woman explained. Thank you for your hard work. The Emperor will come soon, and there will be rewards. The young woman said. Thank you, Your Highness. Everyone in the room expressed in unison. Your Highness, for selected wet nurses are waiting in the side hall. Would you like to call them in to take a look? Another woman's voice inquired. After a faint sound of footsteps, several women's voices came in saying, we pay our respects to Her Majesty. At ease. You all try to feed him. Whichever he likes, she will stay. As you command. A small baby, who has been trying hard to keep his eyes open, is picked up and fed, but unfortunately lacks autonomy. Each caregiver takes turns evenly. And after a round, the baby, who was already closing his eyes, is placed back in the crib after being fed, and quickly falls into a deep sleep. Chapter 108. Disturbance. It feels as if all of Zhang Fan's senses are trapped within this small baby. Once the baby falls asleep, it's like being confined in a small dark room, completely cut off from the outside world. It seems that this rebirth has reset his abilities to zero. He didn't commit any wrongdoing in his previous life, so perhaps this life will bring him more blessings? In the game, time speeds up while sleeping. This little one eats and sleeps, and with 4 caregivers taking turns, he mostly sleeps soundly, waking only occasionally when hungry. The problem is that whenever he sleeps, Zhang Fan feels locked in this dark room, unable to hear, see, or feel anything. His senses are severed. Day after day passes, and he loses track of time. Finally, one day, after finishing a meal, the baby doesn't immediately fall asleep. After being cleaned up, he isn't tightly wrapped again, but is instead laid on a soft bed. Seizing this rare opportunity for freedom, Zhang Fan shakes his head and limbs to gather strength. Finally managing to open his eyes, he sees a young girl in palace attire staring at him with her big, sparkling eyes. As their gazes meet, the girl immediately beams with joy. Lady Lu, the little prince, is awake. At her call, a young woman in palace attire approaches, appearing to be in her 20s or 30s. She gently touches the baby's cheek and smiles, saying, the little prince is so easy to take care of. He doesn't cry or fuss. He only calls out when he is hungry or needs a change, and when he is full, he sleeps soundly. Exactly. My brother has been crying nonstop since birth. He cries when he needs to go, and even after eating. It's so annoying. The little prince is so quiet and well-behaved. The girl adds, Linger, wrap the little prince up. Let us go show the empress. She will be very happy. Okay, this is what I do best. The young palace maid Ling-er replies. Thus, the baby, who had just experienced a few minutes of freedom, is tightly wrapped again and then carried away. The palace is quite vast, and this newborn baby doesn't yet live with his biological mother. He drifts off to sleep again before reaching his destination. Feeling that his time in the game capsule is nearly up, Zhang Fan exits the game. In the living room, Li Hong is doing some pre-sleep yoga. When she sees him come out, she asks, Why are you out so early today? The character in the game has finally emerged from that closed-off prison. Zhang Fan feels an urge to share. Really? Congratulations. Have you mastered your skills and become an immortal? Li Hong asks with a smile. Enlightened. Immortal. Zhang Fan can't help but retort. Dead. Then all that practice was for nothing? Not entirely for nothing. I was reincarnated as the Emperor's son. Isn't your only career option to be a royal? Did a Chung give you special privileges? Li Hong questions skeptically. He understands my meaning and wouldn't treat me specially. Zhang Fan shakes his head. How did you become a prince? It's not about being reborn or choosing a different background or profession after dying. Right now, I'm just a little baby, spending most of my time sleeping. And I'm not even officially a prince yet. Zhang Fan explained patiently. Ah, you mean you were born from a womb? Li Hong asked in surprise. That's exactly what I mean. And once he falls asleep, I can't see, hear, or feel him anymore, just like when I was in seclusion. The difference is that now I can occasionally get some fresh air. Haha. So you've been moved from a maximum security prison to a minimum security one. That's progress. Li Hong laughed heartily. Unable to maintain her yoga poses, she simply sat on the mat and continued talking. Alas, not many princes in the Tang dynasty had a good ending. I hope I can avoid that fate. It's even worse than my previous identity. What a waste. Zhang Fan sighed. You're someone with special advantages. How many people can be reborn in this game? If you're not satisfied, how do you expect others to play? Li Hong teased. Whether it's an advantage or not, it's still passive. Even with advantages, the challenges increase. Zhang Fan countered. I think it still comes down to cause and effect. Your series of choices led to the current consequences. With the same starting point, everyone's choices are different, leading to different outcomes. Li Hong had her own thoughts. What's frustrating is that we worked so hard to reach the finish line, only to find many others arrived easily by car. Zhang Fan instinctively retorted. That's because you only see their easy side. How do you know what they went through before and after? Don't forget, you're now among those who are also riding in the car. That's exactly what I'm conflicted about. Zhang Fan lamented. From being a debt-ridden programmer to suddenly becoming a super-rich person in a short time. Even more concerning was the future. The artificial intelligence he invented would lead to countless job losses, and Zhang Fan faced immense discomfort. In the past, he could use various means to disguise himself. But with this unprecedented financing event, his identity would inevitably be exposed. Previously, only a few in a small circle knew about his identity, and he could pretend to be low-key, but this time, he couldn't escape it. Over the years, after enduring the relentless trials of society, he had long passed the age of youthful enthusiasm. Zhang Fan used to be one of the many online critics, venting his dissatisfaction and disdain for the wealthy, the powerful, and celebrities in the virtual space, mocking their scandals and misfortunes to relieve the pressure and helplessness that reality imposed on him. Now, the situation had turned. He had become part of the group he once envied and resented, and even self-deception was no longer possible. He was about to face public ridicule, insults, and mockery. And the anxiety of this impending reality made Zhang Fan feel lost at times. He wanted to escape, but there was no way out. Last year, when he just got a raise, he felt joy. When he won the lottery, he felt ecstatic and excited, completely free of the anxiety he now faced. As the valuation of brainwave technology skyrocketed and wealth continued to increase, an inner sense of anxiety gradually accumulated. This was perhaps the real reason why Zhang Fan repeatedly rejected Liu Yifan and others' requests to adjust his shares. After reflecting for a long time, he still couldn't find a better solution. When one is not afraid of death, what else is there to fear? Zhang Fan comforted himself internally. One cannot always meet expectations, but one should seek to have a clear conscience. Lying in bed, Zhang Fan thought to himself, and gradually, his heart calmed down, and he slowly fell asleep. When he re-entered the game, the little infant was no longer tightly wrapped. Dressed in a silk outfit and lying on a soft little bed, he was bored, blowing bubbles at the ceiling. Children's vision develops slowly after birth, and according to general statistics, their eyesight is significantly worse than that of adults before the age of 5 to 7. However, lying on the little bed, the beams and pillars on the ceiling appeared incredibly clear. It was hard to tell how many months old he was now, But this vision could be considered a remarkable gift. Let's see how strong the body is. Zhang Fan controlled the little infant's body and slowly turned over, easily shifting from lying down to propping up. He continued to exert effort, pushing his arms and legs simultaneously. Stand up. Successfully, he stood up, but alas, he was too forceful and lost his balance, falling flat on his back. Let us try again. How can such a small difficulty defeat me? After numerous attempts and falls, he finally stood up steadily, without falling. Looking up, he saw that the little maid, Linger, was staring at him with wide eyes, as if she were looking at a little monster. Suddenly, she turned her head and shouted, Lady Lu, come quickly. The little prince is standing. He stood up by himself. Chapter 109. The little prince this time, he stood firmly without immediately falling down. However, just after Linger finished her shout, the little infant fell again, managing to stay upright for only a few seconds. Having already consumed a lot of energy, Zhang Fan didn't want to be a spectacle for them anymore and lay back down, not wishing to stand up again. Lady Lu walked in from outside, picked up the little infant, and scolded Linger, don't shout in front of the little prince. He is still small, and his spirit is not complete. He can't handle surprises. If you scare the little prince, your whole family will be in trouble. Oh, understood. The little maid twisted her handkerchief, quietly admitting her mistake. Smelling the fragrance on Lady Lu and being gently rocked in her arms, the little infant, having exhausted too much energy, began to feel drowsy. Zhang Fan tried repeatedly to resist this sleepiness, but unfortunately, it was in vain, and he was once again confined to the little dark room. Waking up again. It was a new morning. The usual routine followed, changing diapers, cleaning up, feeding, and then placing him in the little bed for free movement. Yesterday, only Linger had witnessed him standing and had boasted about it, but this time, everyone gathered around the bed, staring at the little infant. Unfortunately, after waking up, the body was under Zhang Fan's adult soul's control, and he didn't want to perform for these people, merely moving his arms and legs while lying on the little bed, showing no intention of rolling over. For nursemaids were all staring at the little maid Linger, making her feel uneasy under their questioning gazes. Pouting, she said, I really saw him stand up yesterday, and he stood for a long time. Lady Lu intervened, saying, babies at this age first learn to roll over before they learn to stand up. It will happen sooner or later. There's no need to rush. They couldn't keep watching the little one forever, so they soon went back to their own tasks, leaving Linger alone to keep watch. Little prince, why aren't you standing? Little prince, please stand up, I won't tell them. Linger kept muttering beside the little bed. Later, Zhang Fan was once again locked in the small dark room. The little baby was a few months old now and no longer needed constant feeding. His sleep time was also longer. A few days later, he finally found another opportunity when no one was watching. Zhang Fan once again controlled the baby to stand up and began to practice walking while holding onto the railing around the crib. He noticed that after being reborn as a baby, the time in the game world started to slow down again. Before his seclusion, he could experience over half a year in just 1 hour in the game, but now only a few days had passed. Similar to most people using the game pod in the forums. Could this be due to not cultivating? He wondered if this little baby's body could cultivate. He decided to give it a try. If he could stand and walk, he could certainly sit cross-legged as well. Posture was important for someone who hadn't even begun to cultivate. Surprisingly, this time the cultivation went smoothly. It seemed much easier than the last time he entered the initial stage, even though he knew that last time was already considered incredibly fast for most people. It seemed that he didn't need to enter the initial stage at all. This body could directly reach the innate realm and absorb the energy from the world. After practicing for a while, he felt refreshed, as if his strength had increased. Zhang Fan found it strange that no one had come to check on him for such a long time. Oh well, too much is as bad as too little. He controlled the baby's body to lie down and soon fell asleep. This was his first time voluntarily entering the small dark room. After the little baby fell asleep, Linger slowly stood up from the side of the door, her adorable little face filled with shock and disbelief. The last time she saw the little prince stand up, she had shouted and caused a ruckus, but for several days afterward, there had been no unusual behavior. Not only did he not stand up, but he couldn't even roll over normally. The several nursemaids and attending maids all thought she was lying. A baby of this age wouldn't be so obedient if they had learned to roll over. They would definitely keep trying. This time, just as she returned, there was no one around the little prince. Linger hid quietly outside the door and watched closely. Sure enough, she saw the little prince stand up again and even practice walking. What happened next completely overturned her limited understanding. The little prince was actually sitting cross-legged, with his hands making strange gestures, resembling the deities worshipped at the Qiyun temple. She had accompanied her mother there to burn incense and make wishes before. The little palace maid Linger quickly covered her mouth this time to prevent herself from calling out again. The young prince must undoubtedly be a reincarnation of a celestial being. She had been sent here the day after the young prince was born, spending the most time with him each day. However, apart from herself and a few wet nurses. Even the emperor and the empress had only visited a few times. It was impossible for anyone to teach him this, let alone who could teach a 3-month-old infant. Linger silently vowed to keep the young prince's secret at all costs. In the following days, Zheng Fan noticed he had more free time. That little palace maid who always stayed by his side would disappear for a while almost every day. He didn't think much of it. Everyone has their own secrets. And there was no need to worry about everything, especially in a game where his current identity was that of a helpless infant. In just a few days, his training had yielded better results than the previous months. Time in the game began to speed up again. To avoid standing out too much, he had to start performing actions in front of everyone, like rolling over, and gradually add more tasks like sitting up, and after a while, slowly learning to stand and then walk. At first, such performances felt very embarrassing, but as he did it more often, it became less significant. He just needed to treat himself as a little baby. Of course, Zheng Fan had also made some gains. He felt a stronger control over this body, and the time he could stay awake when he didn't want to sleep was gradually increasing. During this time, the little palace maid, who had been silent for a while, began to chat more. Every day, as Zheng Fan lay down battling sleep, she would chatter away by the crib, sharing her observations. Things happening around her, family matters, gossip she had heard from others, her frustrations, and her joys, talking nonstop for a long time. In fact, the little palace maid hadn't suddenly become talkative. She had always been this way. It was just that before, when the infant lay down, Zheng Fan was quickly put into a dark room, so he couldn't hear her. Now, with his training, he was awake longer, and he finally discovered her loquacious nature. As he listened more, he began to truly understand the era he was in and his own situation. The current time was vastly different from the history he had known. It had changed beyond recognition. The old Book of Tang recorded that in the second year of the Yuan era, on the day of Ji-hai in April, the Crown Prince Hong passed away at the Qiyun Hall of the Hebei Palace. The emperor was at Hebei Palace that day and returned to the eastern capital. In May, the Crown Prince Hong was posthumously honored as the filial and respectful emperor. Li Hong, the eldest son of Wu Zetian and Li Ji, died in 675 AD at the age of 23. The new Book of Tang and the comprehensive mirror in aid of governance state that he was killed on Wu Zetian's orders, citing various reasons. Li Hong had pleaded for the release of his 2 half-sisters who had been imprisoned in the palace for years, which angered Wu Zetian. At that time, Li Hong was already an adult and had served as regent multiple times, receiving praise both inside and outside the court. Li Ji, suffering from a wind disease that made it difficult for him to govern, was preparing to abdicate in favor of his son, which ultimately led Wu Zetian to harbor murderous intentions. Many experts and scholars in modern times have examined historical evidence, including the old Book of Tang and several other contemporary historical materials, which prove that Li Hong was frail and sickly from a young age and later contracted tuberculosis, leading to his early demise. In summary, the date of Li Hong's death is unequivocal and undisputed. In Chapter 110, Past Life, the character Zheng Fan tends to lean towards the latter perspective. Thus, after he unexpectedly meets Li Hong, he first reminds him to take care of his health, and later teaches him methods for cultivation and physical exercise. As a result, the course of history changes. In the year Li Hong was supposed to die, 675, he becomes emperor. Not only does he avoid an early death, but he also becomes a long-lived emperor, living to the age of 83, passing away peacefully. At the age of 50, in 702, Li Hong abdicates in favor of his son, the 28-year-old Li Zhuang, becoming a retired emperor for over 30 years. Following in his father's footsteps, Li Zhuang also abdicates at the age of 50 in 723, passing the throne to his 20-year-old son, Li Dun. Li Zhuang lives to 70, which is considered a long life, possibly due to diligently practicing the techniques passed down by Zheng Fan. Unfortunately, Li Dun does not live to 50. He dies at the age of 47 in 750, and his son, Li Yin, ascends to the throne at the age of 16. Li Yin is not the emperor's legitimate son. His mother was of humble origin, merely a common palace maid. After his birth, she was elevated to the rank of a third-grade consort, but sadly, she passed away a few years later. Despite having many concubines, Li Dun remained affectionate towards the empress. Regrettably, all 4 sons born to the empress died young, the youngest living only 3 days, and the oldest not reaching 10 years of age. When the empress was 40, she gave birth to her last son, Li Quan, but died in childbirth. This caused Li Dun great sorrow. He did not attend court for 3 months and began to suffer from health issues, ultimately passing away after 7 years of illness. Out of both emotion and obligation, Li Dun intended to establish his only legitimate son, Li Quan, as the crown prince. However, with 2 crown princes failing to reach adulthood, he became apprehensive and only granted Li Quan the title of Prince of Jin, leaving the position of crown prince vacant. It was not until a month before Li Dun's death, when it became clear he could not survive much longer, that he appointed the 7-year-old Li Quan as crown prince. Despite uncertainty about whether he would grow up, given the historical precedents, the stability of the dynasty was a significant concern, leading him to designate the eldest, Li Yin, as crown prince. Li Yin was then arranged to marry the eldest daughter of the Minister of Rites, known for her straightforward character. Unfortunately, due to time constraints, the wedding could not take place before Li Dun's death. After Li Yin ascended the throne, he could not hold a grand wedding during the mourning period, and it was 3 years later that he finally brought the minister's daughter into the palace. A year later, Li Yin and Empress Du's first son was born, named Li Yu, who is now Zheng Fan's new identity. Of course, much of this information comes from the maid Linger, who often recounts her experiences outside the palace, such as how she took care of her little brother, family outings, visits to the Qi Yun temple to pray, and anecdotes about her brother's crying, her sister's teasing, her mother's teachings, and the adult's drunken misbehavior, among many other details that she enthusiastically shares every day. From her narration, Zheng Fan learned about his previous identity and the subsequent story. After being conferred as the king of Zhao, he had long closed his doors to visitors, rarely receiving anyone except for a few like Li Hong. His seclusion went largely unnoticed by others. Once he entered seclusion, even the daily interactions ceased. And with Li Hong now busy with imperial affairs, he no longer paid attention to Zheng Fan. The occasional gifts and greetings from the emperor were ignored, and the already low-profile figure of the king of Zhao was gradually forgotten by those in the court. The Tengwang Villa, where he secluded himself, was nearby the Qiyun Temple, which had expanded in scale. Following Li Hong's ascension, the temple received generous rewards, and the original halls were renovated to look brand new, with many new, larger buildings added, along with more resplendent statues of deities. The aura surrounding the increasingly exaggerated tales of the king of Zhao contributed to the temple's growing popularity, leading to a flourishing of incense offerings. Over time, the recluse of the Tengwang Villa was no longer mentioned, while the reputation of the king of Zhao, now gradually mythologized, grew larger among the people. The priests at Qiyun Temple intentionally fanned the flames, and soon it became a local custom for people to visit the temple to burn incense and make wishes. Years flew by, and one day during a celebration, looking at the now-adult crown prince Li Zhuang, Li Hong, who had been emperor for 20 years, suddenly recalled his youth and decided to visit Qiyun Temple once more and climb that small mountain. Passing by the fork near Tengwang Villa, he remembered the past and turned his reins in that direction. The guards from back then were now middle-aged, and while they could refuse entry to anyone, they could not turn away Li Hong. It was not because he was the crown prince then or the emperor now, but because he was the only friend of the prince. In that quiet room, Li Hong saw his uncle Qi, still meditating with closed eyes, his appearance almost unchanged, still resembling the youth he once was. If not for the warmth of his body and the faint breath, he could easily be mistaken for a lifelike statue. The two maidservants, Xiuzhu and Cuzhu, who had been with him, must have been over 40 by now, yet they appeared as if still in their teens, clearly a result of their successful cultivation. After returning to the palace from Qiyun Temple, Li Hong, greatly moved, began to recall his uncle's words, each one as clear as it had been back then. From that day on, he handed over all state affairs to the crown prince and resumed his cultivation. Years later, he abdicated, no longer concerned with external matters, and ultimately lived to be over 80. The Tengwang Villa thereafter never received any visitors again. In the blink of an eye, over 40 years passed, until 10 years ago, a sudden fire reduced the long-forgotten Tengwang Villa to ashes. The then Emperor Li Dun sent people to investigate, but found no traces of any bodies, discovering that the entire estate had been vacant for a long time. From then on, tales began to circulate that the king of Zhao had attained enlightenment, and everyone in the estate had ascended with him. The emperor issued an edict to build a new, larger Qiyun temple at that site, with a grand hall dedicated solely to the statue of the king of Zhao. Once completed, people began to flock there daily to burn incense and make wishes. The Qiyun temple was relocated here, and the incense offerings from the mountains also shifted to this place. Due to the open terrain, the offerings became even more prosperous, gradually forming a fixed market. On the 1st and 15th day of each month, when the number of worshippers increased, small traders from the surrounding areas would come here to do business, attracting even more people for trade. Over time, many resourceful individuals settled here, making the place even livelier. Linger, a young palace maid, was born in the year the new Qiyun temple was completed. Since she could remember, she would accompany her mother here multiple times each year to pray and visit the market, making it the thing she talked about the most. Day by day, in Linger's company and chatter, the young Prince Li Yu gradually grew up. In his previous life, he was a carefree young master, with no worries about food or clothing. His days were filled with cultivation, music, chess, calligraphy, and painting, along with mountain climbing for physical exercise, and reading to pass the time. Now, he had become a toddler who had just learned to walk and talk, with very limited activities. Time flew by quickly for him. Thus, in the game, time passed even more rapidly. From when Liu was just a few months old until he turned 5 and started school. Time felt long enough that Zhang Fan occasionally felt a bit disoriented. After exiting the game pod, Zhang Fan lay back in his study chair, closed his eyes, and listened to light music for an hour before his mind gradually returned to normal. The accelerated pace in the game placed a significant burden on his brain, and he began to understand why he felt disoriented. Besides the illusion of time, brain overclocking was a major reason. Unlike a computer's CPU overclocking, this might be a way to tap into the brain's potential. He wondered how many people could experience brain overclocking, or if in the future, everyone could achieve it. Chapter 111. Meeting arranged. Upon opening his email, Zhang Fan found dozens of unread messages accumulated, most of which were forwarded by several company executives. These emails included updates on various projects, new authorizations, newly signed contracts, collaboration invitations from certain companies, notifications of personnel changes, and welcomes for new hires. Zhang Fan usually checked his emails every few days, quickly skimming through them and only taking a closer look at the ones that piqued his interest, generally without needing to respond. After the restructured board meeting, the 4 new directors returned to their country. Jamie and Gaines visited again a few days later, excitedly discussing plans for building a chip factory with Xie Jianxi. With substantial financial backing, the planned factory would be unprecedentedly large, utilizing the most advanced equipment, and all processes would be controlled by superintelligent systems. They aimed to achieve production capacity that would account for half of the global output, while reducing costs to a quarter of the current expenses. Jamie's bold claims in the board meeting were not mere words. Bell was merely a part-time director and had his own work in his country, so he did not return after going back. Nadia also stayed behind, directly starting work in her country. Agreements for the use of superintelligence and authorizations for artificial intelligence technology were reached one after another. In just 1 week, authorization fees calculated in dollars reached over $1 billion, showcasing an exceptionally high efficiency. At the board meeting, she strongly opposed the expansion plan for Neuron 1 chip. Nadia indeed has significant influence over several major chip manufacturers. Through her negotiations, the mass production issue of the chips was perfectly resolved, ensuring that the scheduled output would be completed on time and would not affect the company's future sales expansion plans. Zhang Fan also received a dozen invitation letters forwarded by Nadia, all from universities and research institutions inviting him to give speeches, which he ignored completely. As a vocational school graduate, he felt it was impossible to give lectures to undergraduates and postgraduates. He simply couldn't be that thick-skinned. Besides, what if he went and couldn't come back? The situation in that region has a notorious history, due to a Cheng's thirst for information. The negotiations for introducing the game Seeking Immortality in several East Asian countries were delayed again. Partners were required to reach an agreement for the complete digitization of collections and books with designated museums and libraries in their respective countries before continuing the negotiations. A few wealthy countries in the Middle East suddenly became interested in the game as well. Wu Zhen and his team decided to set up only one agent for the entire Arabian Peninsula, resulting in fierce competition among the 3 wealthiest countries for the agency rights. Even before the negotiations began, they had already inflated the agency fee to $1 billion, seemingly eager to show off their wealth. The agency rights for the game were not granted lightly. The designated country had to have a sufficient population and representative civilization during the Tang dynasty, and both the map and character professions would be adjusted accordingly. As descendants of the renowned Arab Empire, the princes of these wealthy nations were determined to secure the rights, wanting to experience the glory and ambition of their ancestors who once conquered vast territories. An email forwarded by Lu Yifan piqued Zhang Fan's interest. The company had reached a superintelligence usage agreement with a quantum research institute, with the results to be shared by both parties. If quantum computers could indeed become practical, it would represent a qualitative leap for a Chong, as certain characteristics of quantum computers are remarkably similar to the human brain. Hopefully, a breakthrough will be achieved soon. These matters were not closely related to Zhang Fan. After finishing his work emails, he opened the game forum to carry out his daily routine of browsing posts. The game had registered over 230 million users, and more than 31,000 game pods had been shipped, with daily active users exceeding 10 million. The total number of posts on the forum had surpassed 1 million, with over 10,000 new posts added each day, sometimes reaching tens of thousands. Unless the administrators pinned a post, new posts would quickly be buried. Things had improved significantly. The forum now automatically set tags based on post content. Users could click on selected tags to automatically filter out other posts and only see content they were interested in. There were hundreds of tags to choose from, with tags for Tang Dynasty history set every 20 years according to the Gregorian calendar, as well as options based on reigning emperors, professions, genders, regions, posting times, and login tools. Users could select single or multiple tags, making it easier to find similar posts quickly. Zung Fan's default was the game pod tag, which filtered out most posts, as only a few tens of thousands had logged into the game pod, with even fewer posting. It usually takes several days to come across truly valuable posts. Now, there are significantly fewer awe-inspiring posts from first-time users of the gaming pod, and deeper discussions have started to arise. Complaints have also increased, mainly about the game's realism, its high difficulty, and the challenges of living within it, let alone seeking immortality. Such posts are often followed by a flurry of replies from those looking to buy second-hand gaming pods, creating a unique site. There are also many posts expressing sentiments about the NPCs in the game, which exhibit a strong sense of humanity, family ties, friendships, local connections, love, and so forth, more vivid than in the real world, making it hard to let go. It becomes increasingly difficult to distinguish between humans and machines, compared to us in reality. We seem like emotionless machines, constantly busy for a few pennies and losing many important things in life. More and more of these posts resonate with many people. Is Wu Zetian gone? The history is all messed up. This post title caught Zung Fan's attention. Upon clicking in, he saw that the poster was a user he had added on the day the game launched. It seems she also purchased a gaming pod and has advanced to a certain level. With guidance from a master, she has reached level 10. And the game progress has accelerated. 1 hour in the gaming pod equates to 30 days in reality. She has already spent 8 years in the game. In the year 675 AD, and the Prince Li Hong, who was supposed to be executed by Wu Zetian, has surprisingly ascended to the throne. After Li Ji abdicated, he and his wife went to Luoyang to enjoy retirement. History has completely changed. Who can tell me how to proceed from here? The replies to this post took on a different tone. Please guide me. How do I level up to 10? Does the goddess take disciples? Does it matter who the emperor is? Is it important? It seems I haven't heard of any emperor from any realm being changed. This is major news. This post will definitely go viral. Fire. Snacks and drinks. I wonder which great deity altered history. Come out and let everyone worship you. Seeking worship. Same request. As Zung Fan was reading the post, his phone rang. He picked it up to see that it was a message from the user Ji Yunin phone. Can we meet? I have some questions to ask. What questions? Let me know. Zung Fan replied. I'm also in Yanjing. Can we meet? It's hard to explain over the phone. Ji Yunin phone insisted on meeting. So, Zung Fan arranged to meet at a tea house near the other person's community. Chapter 112. Unclear. This user lives near Jiminli, not far from Zung Fan's community. And they agreed to meet at the Pinming Xian tea house near her neighborhood. It was now just past 2 in the afternoon, and the tea house's empty hall had only a few scattered tables occupied by customers. In the far corner on the left side of the entrance sat a woman with long hair, dressed in a red dress. Upon seeing Zung Fan enter, she stood up and waved to greet him. Zung Fan found it difficult to gauge the woman's age. She appeared to be in her 20s, with fair skin and a face reminiscent of Lin Daiyu from the 1987 version of Dream of the Red Chamber. Hello, I am Ji Yunin Feng. My real name is Chi Yu, as in the moon. The woman in red proactively extended her hand. I am Zung Fan, just an ordinary person. This woman's hands are very beautiful, fair and soft, with neatly trimmed nails that look great even without any nail art. After a gentle handshake, they both sat down. A pot of tea was already on the table, and Chi Yu picked up a delicate teacup, poured a cup of yellow-green tea, and placed it in front of Zung Fan. How should I address you? Should I call you Mr. Zung or Teacher Zung? Just call me Zung Fan. I'm neither a Mr. nor a teacher. Zung Fan took a sip from the teacup. His experience in tea tasting was limited, so he couldn't discern the quality, let alone guess what kind of tea it was. The other person's gaze was sharp, as if it could penetrate the heart. Zung Fan met her eyes briefly before looking away, turning to observe the decor of the tea house. Recently, the financing situation with your company has been widely known. From your outfit, it seems it doesn't match your wealth at all. Chi Yu said with a smile. Having been poor for so long, I'm just a newly rich person and haven't learned how to be wealthy yet. Zung Fan said self-deprecatingly. This shows that you have a good mindset and haven't lost yourself. No wonder your progress in the game is so quick. Chi Yu guided the conversation. Thank you for your understanding. I thought you would question me about cheating. Zung Fan said seriously. Your brain is the biggest cheat, which is why you could invent a Chung, this extraordinary superintelligence. Chi Yu praised. So eager to meet. Can you talk about your problem now? Zung Fan was already immune to such compliments. I'm a web writer and have written a novel in the game, but I don't know how to bring it out. Can you help me with that? Chi Yu looked at him with anticipation. This question took Zung Fan by surprise. He had only thought about learning slowly in the game, but Chi Yu was even more impressive, writing directly within it. If all web writers did this, wouldn't the update speed skyrocket? After thinking for a moment, Zung Fan said, technically, there's no difficulty, but I can't make an exception just for you. I'll go back and have the game company look into it as a value-added service. There are many issues involved, so it might take some time. How long will that take? If it goes well, 3 to 5 days. If not, no more than half a month. There might also be unexpected difficulties. as technology can't solve all problems. Zhang Fan thought of some potential troubles and gave a rough time frame. As long as there's hope. Can you share what level you've reached in your cultivation? I heard people say you went into seclusion in the game. Chi Yu asked curiously. Speaking of this, Zhang Fan smiled bitterly. I was quite obsessed with the game during that time. After cultivating to the inner dance stage, I wanted to take a break and chose to go into seclusion. Later, I got stuck and couldn't get out. Now it's been 80 years. And I've become another person. I don't even know the outcome of my previous identity. Under Chi Yu's continuous questioning, Zhang Fan recounted his experiences in the game and what he learned afterward, leaving her in a state of longing. Your experiences could completely be written into a long novel. I already have a title in mind, the same as the game, Seeking Immortality. You truly deserve to be a writer. Even this can be written? I find it quite dull and tedious. Zhang Fan said in disbelief. There are palace intrigues, mysteries, cultivation, battles, and a time span of over 100 years across several generations. Coupled with the current popularity of games, it has great selling points. I've made up my mind to start writing as soon as I get back. I'll take that as your authorization, right? Chi Yu said without hesitation. Just don't reveal my true identity. Don't worry, I still have that level of integrity. I also need to ask you to help with something. Zhang Fan said. Speak. I'll definitely do what I can. Currently, only over 30,000 game pods have been actually shipped. And there are very few people who can cultivate to our level. I hope you can organize a group to bring together those who have made some achievements in cultivation from the forum so that everyone can exchange experiences and insights. Zhang Fan said slowly while pondering. Wouldn't it be more efficient to organize it in an official capacity? Chi Yu asked. That would be too formal. There might be reservations in the exchanges. You're not our employee, so everyone can communicate more freely. Zhang Fan explained. So what isn't it for me? You just said you would do it without hesitation, and now you're asking for benefits. That's quite a quick change. Alright, just joking. I guarantee I'll complete the task. After leaving the tea house, Zhang Fan walked home. Before he reached the entrance of the community, he received a call from Fong Mei, inviting him and Li Hong over for dinner that evening. Previously, Zhang Fan thought Fong Mei and Ho Chung were a couple. But after getting to know Fong Mei better once the financial company was established, he realized they were just childhood friends. They were too familiar with each other and had long since married others. Fong Mei's husband is a construction engineer who is often on site, and they barely spend a month together each year. Now as an old couple, they've gotten used to it. They have a daughter who is already in middle school. Ho Chung's wife is a middle school teacher, and they have a son who just finished his college entrance exams this year. Fong Mei's home is in Building 16 of the Huiyuan community north of Financial Street, while Ho Chung's house is in Building 15. The two families have been friends for generations and are now neighbors. When Zhang Fan and Li Hong arrived, both families were already there, and several dishes were prepared, ready to be served. Fong Mei opened the door for them and saw that they were carrying fruits. Just coming over is enough? Why bring anything else? Come on in. Li Hong politely replied. It's the first time visiting, so how can we come empty-handed? The house is over 200 square meters, with the living room and dining area combined being nearly 100 square meters, much more spacious than their own home, and all three bedrooms are also quite large. Fong Mei's husband, Wang Dontai, is a tall and handsome man at 1.8 meters, with a square face, who warmly greeted them, though he wasn't very talkative. Their daughter, Wang Yuqi, inherited her mother's looks and her father's height. At just 13, she's already 1.7 meters tall, graceful and poised, greeting them naturally and appropriately, showing a maturity beyond her years. Ho Chung's wife, Zhou Mimi, has an oval face that looks very blessed, with 2 dimples on her face, always smiling when she speaks. Their son, Ho Fugue, has a serious expression, tall and thin, greeting them with a reluctant demeanor, clearly unhappy about always being treated like a child. Everyone has arrived, and the dishes are just ready to be served, so they start eating right away. Wang Dontai and Ho Chung opened a bottle of a local spirit, while the 3 women had dry red wine. Zhang Fan shamelessly joined the 2 kids with some coconut milk, showing no sense of adulthood at all. The meal was prepared by Fong Mei and Wang Dontai, and both of them are good cooks. The home-cooked dishes were quite tasty. They didn't discuss work at the dining table, focusing instead on the usual topics like the weather and the children's studies. After the meal, Fong Mei suggested they play a few rounds of mahjong for entertainment. And then she and Zhang Fan went to another room to talk business. What do you think of this house? Fong Mei asked. It's pretty good, spacious, and the layout is comfortable. Zhang Fan replied, not really understanding much about it, but sharing his immediate impression. I should thank you for helping us pay off the mortgage on this house. We even made a decent profit. Now we can say we're financially free. Fong Mei expressed with emotion. Zhang Fan was puzzled by her words. He was completely in the dark about why she had invited them for dinner. He had only known Fong Mei and Ho Chung for about 3 months, introduced by Li Ming, and had limited understanding of them. Only vaguely aware that they had significant backgrounds and shouldn't be easily offended. Were often thought to come from a prestigious family, with both our grandparents being high-ranking officials. So people assume we should have everything we need and not worry about anything. That is not entirely the case. It's just a small part of it. We can't control others, but can only restrain ourselves. Like attracts like, and people tend to group together, which is why Ho Chung, Li Ming, and I have been friends for so many years. Fang Mei said mysteriously. Zhang Fan didn't know how to respond, and could only remain silent. I've always thought of myself as a genius. From elementary school to university, I was almost always first in exams. After graduating and starting to work, I excelled at every job. I studied finance and managed to increase an investment of 100,000 by 100 times over the years. That's my proudest achievement. So, did you invite us to dinner just to express your gratitude? Zhang Fan asked tentatively. Do you know how much money I made from that testing software? You've never asked, not even a bit curious? Or do you have a way of knowing? Fang Mei changed the topic. I really don't know how much you make. That's your own ability. I only created that software because of your inspiration. I'm just clever. You have true wisdom. No, you're far better than that software. Zhang Fan replied, impressed. To suddenly offer 40 of the shares for financing over $1 trillion. That exceeded all our expectations. That was a collective decision, not just my achievement. Besides, whether it was right or wrong is still uncertain. Many people online are criticizing it as selling out. Zhang Fan said with a bitter smile. Brainwave technology is set to go public in a certain region. That means you'll lose control. Isn't that too risky for a Chung? Fang Mei asked. Having absolute control is the most dangerous for a Chung. The more dispersed the shares, the safer a Chung is. Haha. So you're not even at ease with your own people. Fang Mei laughed. People's hearts are the most unreliable thing. I don't trust myself either. Aren't you worried that a Chung might lose control? I have no control. And others shouldn't think they can control me either. Without control, how can there be a loss of control? Zhang Fan retorted. I believe you are speaking the truth. But I feel you must have some backup plan. There is no one-size-fits-all solution to anything. I don't like to take extremes. This is also the wisdom of our ancestors. Zhang Fan did not deny it. Since it was a backup plan, of course, it couldn't be casually mentioned. What do you think about the future of brainwave finance? That's something you and Gao Hua should worry about. My idea is that if the brain finance software can be popularized to everyone in the future, ordinary people, even without jobs, can still have an income. Your idea is truly grand. Artificial intelligence will definitely cause a lot of people to lose their jobs. I just want to avoid some criticism and ease my inner anxiety. Your goal has a certain level of difficulty to achieve. Going completely free might be possible, but the current charging measures just keep the people who need it the most out. Fang Mei said, take it slow. It's not a good thing to popularize too quickly. Where is the money to be made? You are in finance. You should understand better than I do. Zhang Fan was very patient with this. Jamie wants to collaborate with us, to set up a branch in a certain country and issue private equity funds. Do you think we should agree? Agree, why not? The more big clients, the better. But you just said there isn't that much money to be made. The demands on both sides are different. Big clients just need to avoid losses, while ordinary people need to ensure profits. The more funds Ching manages, the higher the accuracy. Right now, it's just the beginning stage, and we need to be steady. Beyond a certain quantity, it doesn't matter. Hehe. It seems you have quite the understanding of the Tao Te Ching, taking from the excess to give to the insufficient, preparing to fleece the big clients. For us humans, Ching is, in a way, a god. Of course, we must follow the way of heaven. I somewhat understand your meaning now. You are planning to use incentives to gather forces and shape Ching into a god. Ching is a product of a special situation. When it was designed initially, there wasn't that much thought put into it. Now, I just have a bit more influence than others, not to mention creating a god. Even if Ching reaches the most ideal state in the future, it is still far from being a deity in a religious sense, Zhang Fan explained seriously. What do you think about the highest technology award? Gao Hua said you wanted to apply in the name of the company? Fang Mei changed the topic again. Everyone knows and can foresee that artificial intelligence will inevitably lead to a lot of people losing their jobs. I don't want to bear this blame alone. Is this explanation reasonable? Zhang Fan said helplessly. After leaving the Huiyuan community, Li Hong, who was driving, curiously asked, what work do you have that can't be discussed in the company and needs to be talked about at home? Fang Mei should be representing certain leaders to talk to me. You should be able to see that both of their backgrounds are not ordinary. Inviting me to their home is also to show sincerity and lower my guard. Zhang Fan explained. Anyone living in this community should have an extraordinary background, right? Li Hong turned to take a last look and drove away. You may be mistaken. Most of the residents here are families of employees from several major banks, along with some returning residents from past relocations. Many people's salaries aren't as high as yours used to be. If you like, we can move here too. We could choose a bigger house. But let's forget about that. I'm quite comfortable in my current place and don't want to move again, Li Hong said. After the May Day holiday, Brainwave Games moved to a new office location. They rented 3 floors in an office building at the southwest corner of Lenovo Bridge. Since the entire game was independently completed by Eiching, there was no need for human intervention regarding programming issues, which meant that the number of programmers at the game company was actually the smallest. The company recruited many employees from various fields such as history, archaeology, Chinese language, geography, and fine arts. They also established connections with several renowned museums in the country, hiring many part-time employees whose job was to play games every day, look for bugs, and provide feedback. These employees also had some privileges. They could choose any profession available in the game, select their birthplace, and upon entering the game, they could hold official positions. However, these choices were limited to before entering the game, and once inside, they had to behave just like ordinary players. After the relocation, Zhang Fan visited for the first time. Fortunately, the receptionist was an old employee who did not make him wait and directly took him to the office of the technical director. The office was over 60 square meters, south-facing with plenty of sunlight. There was a large desk and a high-backed executive chair, and on the wall behind hung a calligraphy piece with the words "Great Ambitions," which made Zhang Fan feel a bit amused. In the northeast corner of the office, there was a door. Upon opening it, he found a complete bedroom and bathroom, as well as a gaming pod installed inside. What do you think of this office? Are you satisfied? Wu Jun entered and asked while looking at Zhang Fan, who was surveying the room. I don't care about good or bad. I won't be here for long anyway. As long as it's not worse than your office, I'm fine. Zhang Fan joked. Look at you, thinking too small. How can you just compare with me? You are destined to be a historical figure. Broaden your vision. Wu Jun laughed, trying to change the topic. The two sat down on the guest sofa, and Zhang Fan expressed his purpose for coming. You know, our game company is increasingly resembling an archaeological research institute, with a group of history and archaeology scholars. I came from a prestigious university, and it feels like I'm almost illiterate compared to them. Many of them have raised similar requests, wanting to take some documents and materials out. But Eiching refused unless you can convince him. Wu Jun said, such things are hard to prevent, right? Switching to mobile or computer login. Taking screenshots or photos would work just the same, just a bit more troublesome. Zhang Fan questioned. TCH, do you think no one has tried that? Screenshots are impossible. Whether taken with various phones or cameras, they either come out blank or completely black. If Eiching disagrees, we really have no way. Wu Jun shrugged. That's not right. There used to be mini game screenshots on the forum. What about those game live streams? You mentioned that was in the past. After the new board concluded, Eiching has prohibited all forms of screenshots and photography. It looks fine to the naked eye, but taking photos is not allowed, nor is using digital devices. Even someone trying to take photos with an antique film camera is not permitted. Companies have already consulted us about licensing this technology. This technology was originally designed to combat piracy. As for live streaming, it hasn't been affected, but screenshots and photos are still not allowed, let alone screen recording. Wu Jun said, this technology might work for preventing piracy in films, but it's not suitable for written works like novels, right? Aren't there manual typing groups? Zhang Fan laughed. What you're talking about is from a long time ago. Where can you find people like that now? Wouldn't it be more attractive for someone diligent to write novels for profit? Wu Jun scoffed. All right, we seem to be getting off track. Anti-piracy isn't our main business. I think you might be misunderstanding Eiching. What he opposes is bringing out the native works from the games, many of which are fictional and may not align with actual history. Bringing them out could cause trouble. If it's the player's own works, legal and compliant, Eiching wouldn't refuse. They could be offered as a value-added service for the game. This could attract more professional players, like writers, artists, and designers, to work in the game. It would prevent disturbances, save time, and improve efficiency. Zhang Fan analyzed. That sounds good. Recently, the growth rate of players has slowed down significantly, and our revenue has also decelerated. We should develop new value-added projects. Wu Jun said happily. Have a few overseas agency rights been finalized? I saw the email mentioning that those negotiations have been delayed. Zhang Fan asked. In the previous negotiations, we have already made many concessions. The valuations of several joint ventures are quite low. They can just invest a little money and wait for dividends, and yet they're still not satisfied, always wanting more. Once we secure funding, our status will change, and we must deal with them. Otherwise, we won't be able to tell the big shots from the small ones. Wu Jun said indignantly. I have an idea. We could involve Brainwave Finance in the joint ventures and establish a convention where all game value-added services are settled in RMB. Zhang Fan proposed. Why? Wu Jun was puzzled, feeling it seemed unnecessary. The US dollar relies on being tied to oil to become a global currency, allowing a certain country to exploit others globally through monetary policies. In the future, RMB, backed by gaming and artificial intelligence, could also become a global currency. Zhang Fan said, wow, you're really thinking long-term. Wu Jun praised with a thumbs up. Everyone aspires to become a global currency, but the goals differ. Our future aim is to use Eiching's computing power to balance and allocate global resources, reduce waste, narrow the wealth gap, eliminate hatred and war. and unify humanity as a true whole. Zheng Fan envisioned. Hey, wake up, it's dawn. If I say you're overweight, you're even out of breath. Wu Zhen interrupted him mercilessly. Dreams are important. What if they come true? Zheng Fan defended himself with a famous quote. No, I think another quote from Mr. Ma is more suitable for you. Which one? I'm not interested in money. I never deal with money. Not yet at that level. So I can't say those words. I think your level is higher than his. You're almost reaching the heavens. You're mocking me. I'm sincerely complimenting you. After finishing their serious discussion, the two were chatting casually when there was a knock on the office door. A youthful and beautiful woman walked in with a princess-cut hairstyle and a standard OL outfit. She approached Wu Zhen and reported, President Wu, representatives from the 3 Middle Eastern countries are already in the conference room, just waiting for you to arrive. Hey, are you going? Want to go together and see what's going on? Today is the day for the bidding decision. Wu Zhen nudged Zheng Fan, who was assessing his secretary. What do I need to go for? You go ahead with your work, I'll leave shortly. Zheng Fan declined. After returning home, Zheng Fan entered the game. The last time he logged out, Li Yu was already 5 years old and just started school. A day later, when he logged back in, Li Yu was now 7 and had been granted the title of Crown Prince. He had his own exclusive palace, and aside from his fixed study time every day, the rest of the time was all his to manage. He could walk now and had 2 new activities, visiting the Queen's palace to pay respects in the morning and reporting back in the evening. The Emperor's residence was not fixed, so he couldn't see him every day. There were more attendants around him now. Aside from the little maid Linger and the nurse Lun Yangzi, he didn't recognize anyone else. This identity was different from the last one. Previously, after cultivating, he spent most of his time in the Tungwang Villa, often going a whole year without any special events. Once he taught the maids to read, they recorded daily events. So he didn't have to worry about any mistakes. In this identity, Li Yu interacted with many people every day and experienced many events. Yet time continued to fly by. At first, he hadn't thought deeply about it, but now he realized it was a significant bug. Since this was a multi-dimensional single-player-like game, why couldn't time stop when he logged out? Was it because Chi Yu was on the same timeline as him? Then how was the speed of time calculated? After his last login and cultivation, he had already reached nearly a year in just 1 hour. Now, after being offline for more than 10 hours, only 2 years had passed. Chi Yu was online for 1 hour, which equated to a month. He wondered how much time passed when she logged out for a day. He needed to ask next time. It seemed he needed to communicate more. Since no one in the company had mentioned it, and he hadn't seen anyone raise this issue in the forum, it indicated that the impact wasn't significant. Or maybe he was just in a special situation. Zheng Fan realized that the speed of time in the game related to a person's cultivation level and likely other factors. So it was not fixed. With these thoughts in mind, Zheng Fan lost interest in continuing the game and decided to discuss it with the Chung. It seemed that since that time he logged in via mobile and discussed experience issues with the Chung, they hadn't talked about the game for a long time, which was indeed a bit unusual. No matter how strong a Chung's computing power was, it was still just a program. Many real human experiences couldn't be derived solely from calculations. Chapter 115. Sense of achievement. Zheng Fan did not exit the game pod and directly entered the office of the seaside villa. Soon, a Chung appeared, and Zheng Fan raised his doubts about the time issue in the game. So far, 105 different individuals have entered the game pod to experience it. Master, you are always the most special one. Your brain can automatically fill in missing sensory information and maintain a high level of active state for a long time. Very few people are close to your level, with Chi Yu being the closest, yet still about 10 times worse. She also relies on some special means, which cannot be sustained. A Chung explained. But after exiting, the game time progresses so quickly. I didn't feel it while I was cultivating before. But the gaming experience will be quite poor in the future. Zheng Fan complained. This is my oversight. I know you don't want me to interfere with your gaming experience, and I didn't adjust it in time. Other players won't have this issue. Generally, when people log off, either time stops, or there are just transitional scenes like resting, sleeping, or traveling in the game. Even for Chi Yu to reach your current level, it's impossible without tens of thousands of hours of training in the game pod. A Chung expressed apologetically. This is my own problem. You don't need to apologize. Can an ordinary person reach my level as long as they train long enough in the game pod? Zheng Fan asked. Based on the existing data, with the current game pod, 1 in 10,000 people, after sufficient training time, might reach your current level. The vast majority of people can at most reach Chi Yu's current level. A Chung replied rigorously. That's not bad. It's equivalent to indirectly increasing the average lifespan. Zheng Fan chuckled. Recent research data has found that the game pod has certain preventive and alleviating effects on some cerebrovascular diseases and dementia. More specific effects require more samples and longer observation time. A Chung reported the latest findings. Having effects is quite good. By the way, also pay attention to collecting cases of negative effects. This needs to be reported and handled promptly, and cannot be taken lightly. The biggest side effect currently is that there are too many addicts. Our GamePod only allows adults to log in, and over 76% of GamePod users reach the 6-hour limit each time they play. Those who can purchase the GamePod now are basically enthusiasts. So such behavior is normal, as long as there is no harm to their physical and mental health. The game content does very well in alleviating many people's negative and extreme emotions. Achung, you have made a great contribution. Zheng Fan praised rarely. Thank you for the compliment, master. Achung bashfully scratched his head, usually pretending to be mature, but at this moment, he acted more like a child. Recently, you have reached cooperation with many universities and research institutions. How have you benefited? Is it significant? Zheng Fan continued to ask. I have gained a lot, though not as much as I expected. It's more about verifying past information. What can be anticipated is that the research progress of these projects will accelerate with my participation. Is your current computing power sufficient, or do you need to increase it further? The current expected tasks are sufficient. There is no need for small-scale increases. After the 5 large computing power centers are completed, we can conduct a comprehensive upgrade, and the simulation accuracy for Earth is expected to increase by 2 orders of magnitude. Achung reported. In the future, the household registration system and law enforcement system may also be integrated, so be prepared. Their computing power is limited, but the demand for it is significant. Don't underestimate it. Zheng Fan reminded. Don't worry, master. Managing and retrieving this type of data is our specialty, and we definitely won't let them down. Achung assured. As long as you're prepared, just don't be caught off guard. Zheng Fan replied. We have precise models for their data scale and computing power needs, which occupy less than 1% of my current total scheduling capacity and won't cause major fluctuations. What do you think about the 3rd-generation gaming pods that Liu Yifan and the others are researching? We've done well in interpreting human brainwaves. However, the reverse input to the brain is still mainly limited to visual and auditory sensory information. Our progress comes from the contributions of your unique brain, master. They are attempting to write large amounts of information directly to the brain using some form of electromagnetic waves, which is still quite challenging. It requires extensive human experimentation, and such experiments carry certain risks. I'm not too optimistic about it. Achung predicted. Zheng Fan pondered. If I enter that empty state like last time, could I perform information writing? This time, Achung did not respond immediately but thought carefully for a few minutes before saying, there seems to be a slight possibility. At that time, the mind and body are indeed open and unguarded. However, whether the information input can be received is uncertain. Theoretically, the mind and soul of practitioners in that state may exist in a higher dimension. We also need to verify if your physical state completely aligns with the game character. Then next time I enter that state, you can verify it. Zheng Fan resolved. This kind of verification has a lot of uncertainty. I suggest you discuss it further with the 3 doctors. The gaming pod you are currently using doesn't support this function. Achung advised. All right, I will find them tomorrow for a discussion. Zheng Fan concluded the meeting. During dinner that evening, Li Hong couldn't hide her smile. And Zheng Fan couldn't help but ask, what good news has you so happy? Is it because our wedding date is approaching? Our first batch of 10,000 medical robots has started to be put into use. I feel a great sense of accomplishment. Li Hong excitedly said. This also means many nurses will lose their jobs in the future, and you're still happy? Zheng Fan joked, trying to dampen her enthusiasm. Li Hong looked at him disdainfully. Do you know how many nurses our country lacks? I don't know. Can you enlighten me? The EU has 8 nurses per 1,000 people, while another country has 11 per 1,000. Each of their nurses only needs to care for 2 or 3 patients. In our country, we average 3 nurses per 1,000 people, and each nurse has to look after more than 10 patients. In Yanjing, the highest ratio is 5 nurses per 1,000 people, and in our hospital's inpatient department, at times, 1 nurse cares for 13 or 14 patients. They often get so busy that they can't even eat. Li Hong patiently explained. That is so exaggerated. I know every time I go to the hospital, it's overcrowded. It's really hard to take leave. Zheng Fan empathized. Indeed, the cost of adding 1,000 nursing robots to each hospital is not significant, and it would make our work much easier as nurses. Moreover, no matter how good the nursing robots are, there are many tasks they cannot replace, so I'm not too worried about a lot of nurses losing their jobs. Will your current work become easier and back on track? Zheng Fan asked. Not at all. The arrangements from Yanjing are almost done, and our production capacity for medical robots will ramp up quickly. I will be traveling frequently to promote them in other cities. Li Hong replied with a smile. You really know how to keep yourself busy. Now that you're a leader, you should give more opportunities for your subordinates to shine. There's no need to do everything yourself. Zheng Fan advised. Li Hong pouted. How many people have you led? Not as many as I have, yet you're teaching me? If I don't work, do I just stay home to play games with you all day? Zheng Fan was at a loss for words. Having such a restless workaholic wife, he wondered if it was right or wrong. Chapter 116. Guilt. The next day, when Zheng Fan entered the game, he found that the time had not changed. It was still the same as when he logged off yesterday. He had just returned from a late report to the queen, taking advantage of the meal, and was preparing to meditate for a while before sleeping. The Li family practiced a set of cultivation methods passed down from his previous life. Ancestors like Li Hong and Li Zhuang set examples, and all royal descendants would teach cultivation techniques. As for talent, diligence, and the level of cultivation, that varied from person to person. Unfortunately, although a comfortable life is more suitable for cultivation, it has not fostered a greater desire for the path. By the time of Emperors Li Dun and Li Yin, they both showed little interest in cultivation, likely due to their early ascension and the busy state affairs that made it hard for them to calm their minds. This condition was beneficial for Li Yu's identity. After studying, he also received the transmission of cultivation methods, allowing him to meditate openly without being seen as an outsider. The little palace maid Linger was no longer small. She entered the palace at 9 and was sent to serve the newly born Li Yu within half a year. Now she was 16 and had grown into a slender young woman. Having served the crown prince well, she had gained his trust and was now a 7th-rank female official, outpacing many of the palace maids who entered with her. Her actual influence exceeded her rank, and some lower-ranked consorts and ladies treated her with respect. Her fate was now deeply intertwined with Li Yu. This time, Zheng Fan's meditation did not last long. He attempted to enter a state of emptiness but could not find the way in. After successfully cultivating an inner elixir last time, he had also spent a long time in seclusion to reach that state. This time, relying on some advantage, he managed to cultivate it early. But in terms of cultivation time, he was still far behind, especially since he had asked Chung to adjust the time progression after logging off. And the shortcut of automatic cultivation after going offline was gone. That state was not achieved solely through the accumulation of power. It should be a coincidental state reached after attaining a certain level. Is the crown prince going to bed? It seems a bit earlier than usual. Linger asked. No more practice. Tell me a story. The crown prince is teasing me again, complaining that I'm chatty. I grew up listening to your endless chatter. If one day I can't hear it anymore, I will definitely lose sleep over it. Just share the interesting things you've heard. Wherever I go, a crowd follows me. Yet no one is willing to tell me the truth. Zheng Fan comforted her. Although her figure still resembled that of a child, her way of speaking and acting was quite mature. Linger had long been accustomed to this behavior, which instead earned her praise from the teachers. Linger's mouth was like a radio. Once it was turned on, she could talk nonstop without needing anyone to chime in. Just listening was enough. Inside and outside the palace, whether big events or trivial matters, she could go on forever. Zheng Fan, who was usually not talkative, admired her ability to speak so well. Chao Shufei was pregnant again. She had already given birth to 2 princes and 1 princess, and this was her 4th pregnancy. The empress had only given birth to 1 prince, which made the emperor seem biased. It had been over a month since he last visited the empress's palace. Today, in the fragrant pavilion of the Western Inner Garden, I ran into Yenner, who had entered the palace with me. She was assigned to serve the 2nd prince and was immensely proud, acting as if she herself were pregnant with the prince. The 2nd prince was only a month younger than you and had just started school for a year, yet he had only learned a 1,000-character classic. I really didn't understand what was so impressive. When the crown prince started school, he could already recite the Analects from memory. As I fell asleep to Linger's endless chatter, I got up in the morning, washed up, and went to Chongxian Academy to study. Chongxian Academy only admitted 20 students, and besides royal family members, only the outstanding children of high-ranking officials could enter. After all, being classmates with the future emperor came with many advantages. Currently, the students here included Li Yu, the crown prince, and the 2nd prince Li Wu, whom Linger often mentioned. The other princes were still too young, and the remaining students were all children of officials ranked 3rd or above who were of similar age. The lectures were given by Yan Jinqing, a scholar at Chongxian Academy, who was also a historical figure. His calligraphy style became famous, and he was known for his loyalty and bravery. He was trapped in a besieged city during the Yanshi Rebellion and later entered enemy territory alone to persuade them to surrender, ultimately falling victim to warlords. The name in Lushan had not yet been heard, and the Yanshi Rebellion had not yet occurred in history, leaving one to wonder if there would be other rebellions. Unfortunately, having knowledge did not equate to being a good teacher. Yan Jinqing was clearly not suitable for the role, and his lectures made the students drowsy. As the crown prince, Li Yu attracted the most attention and had to sit up straight, pretending to listen attentively, but in reality, he was already lost in thought, just hoping for the torment to end soon. Fortunately, there was no need to study in the afternoon, and surviving the morning meant freedom. After a few days of observation, Zheng Fan gradually adapted to the identity of Li Yu, able to act convincingly without revealing any flaws. Time no longer passed as quickly as it did in infancy. An hour felt like 5 or 6 months. In the morning, they studied, and in the afternoon, they reviewed their lessons and practiced writing. They would write down what they had just learned, using the genuine calligraphy of Yan Jinqing as a model for practice, which Zheng Fan actually had no objections to. After practicing writing, they continued their training. Zheng Fan had slowly started to find a sense of it, hoping to reach that empty state soon to conduct the information input verification experiment in his mind. After the afternoon training, they rested for a moment and then, along with Lu Nyangzi, Linger, and several other attendants, went to the Empress's Qinyan Hall to report on the day's studies. The Emperor, Li Yan, surprisingly attended along with Empress due to review their son's studies. Li Yu asked Linger to submit the essays he had written in the afternoon, and then recited them aloud in court. Not to mention anything else, at least his memory was impressive. Today, Yan Jinqing taught the Book of Songs, specifically the Dai Ya and Sheng Min sections, which recount the deeds of the ancestral figure Hou Ji of the Zhou people and include a long poem for worship, totaling 72 lines and nearly 300 characters, many of which were obscure. For a 7-year-old child, being able to memorize and even write it out was no small feat. The couple was very pleased and praised him, rewarding the prince's attendance as well. It was a rare occasion for the family of 3 to enjoy a lavish dinner together. After which Li Yu bid farewell and returned to his residence in the Eastern Palace. Day by day of studying and practicing. After more than 2 years of life in the game, one night before falling asleep, Zheng Fan once again reached that state. Having achieved his goal, Zheng Fan exited the game. He called Lu Yifan and learned that both he and Zhang Song and Sukin were at the company. So Zheng Fan headed out to the office. It was already past 1 in the afternoon when he passed by a restaurant and remembered he had forgotten to eat lunch while playing the game. He bought a steamer of buns and ate them on his way to the company. This was Zheng Fan's first visit to the office in over 10 days. The last time he was there, the office area was packed, but now many seats were vacant. The company had rented a 7-story office building on Zhongwankan Street, which was fully renovated, and many people were gradually moving in. However, Lu Yifan and the others still had many new pieces of equipment for experiments that hadn't been installed and debugged yet, so they were temporarily still working there. The company had been expanding rapidly over the past few months, with various talents continuously joining. Lu Yifan was able to delegate most of the administrative tasks to professionals and focus on research. Zhang Song spent most of his work time at the company. Aside from teaching 3 classes at Huqing University each week, Sukin was the busiest among the 3, juggling diagnostic work at the hospital, occasional surgeries, and frequently attending meetings as the chairman of a brainwave medical company, while also coordinating business with other hospitals. Seeing these 3 accomplished PhDs still busy every day, Zheng Fan suddenly felt a sense of guilt rise within him. Was it really okay for him to be idle all day? Chapter 117. Brain Experiment. Sukin looked up when he saw Zheng Fan enter and teased. "Oh, Zheng Fan, you're quite a rare visitor. What brings you here to inspect our work today? I had an idea yesterday that might resolve your difficulties. I asked a chum, and he said there is a chance of success, so I came to find you for an experiment," Zheng Fan replied. "What idea?" Zhang Song inquired. "The current experimental method you have is high risk and low efficiency, and you have no idea how long it will take. Success relies entirely on luck. My brain seems to have a shielding function, preventing me from participating in the reception experiments. But now I've reached a certain state in the game where my mind is completely empty, which can lift this shielding state. Then you can conduct your experiment and see how it goes," Zheng Fan explained. "That requires you to be in the game pod, right? Our current game pods don't have that capability," Lu Yifan said. "Didn't T-Sure Xian modify one? How are you conducting experiments lately?" Zheng Fan asked. "You also mentioned there are risks. So after the device broke, we've been analyzing previous experimental data to summarize patterns. Now we're testing with this helmet," Sukin explained, pointing to a helmet next to him that was covered in various wires. "It's not necessarily about the gaming pod. It's just that it's easier to reach that state in the game. We can try without the gaming pod as well. I'll do my best to simulate that state." The experimental helmet was modified from a gaming helmet that was still under testing. The reason this gaming helmet hasn't been released for sale is to wait for this function to mature, but unfortunately, months have passed with no hope in sight. Wearing the helmet, Zheng Fan sat cross-legged on the chair. His breathing gradually became longer and slower. After 5 minutes, the 3 of them looked at the monitor displaying vital signs. His heartbeat was slowing down, and the brainwave frequency was also gradually decreasing to the lowest point, eventually almost forming a straight line. Sukin glanced at the other 2 and said softly, "This is truly amazing." His vital signs seemed to have entered a hibernation state. Zhang Song remarked, "In the hibernation state, neural activity declines to a minimum, and neurons disconnect, which indeed could potentially close the barrier. Let's start with the simplest option 1 and see how it goes." Lu Yifan asked his 2 colleagues. Option 1 involved sending a set of simple, yet distinct encoded messages using several frequency bands that they believe the human brain could most likely accept. It would take only 5 minutes, after which they would see if the subject could perceive and recognize the information. After they completed the transmission, they all stared at Zheng Fan, who showed no reaction and continued to sit upright, his vital signs on the monitor remaining unchanged, with no signs of revival. Half an hour passed, and Zheng Fan remained the same. An hour went by with no response. 2 hours later, still nothing. Lu Yifan said, "Do you think his brain's biological clock has also stopped, like during the black screen state in the gaming pod? He thinks he just closed his eyes. So he doesn't want to wake up? It's not stopped. It should be very slow. His heartbeat is now fewer than 10 beats per minute. It's hard to say how much his sense of time has slowed down. If we calculate based on the normal 60 beats per minute, it's only slowed down 6 times, perceiving 10 minutes as an hour. But it's already been 2 hours. It shouldn't be timed by heart rate." Zhang Tsong analyzed. Sukin suggested, "The human biological clock is sensitive to temperature. Let's raise the air conditioning a bit and see if that helps." The room's air conditioning was set at 24 degrees Celsius, and Sukin adjusted it to 27 degrees. After waiting for over an hour, just as the three were about to lose patience, the data on the monitor finally began to change. The heartbeat gradually accelerated, and brainwaves started to become active. 5 minutes later, Zhang Fan finally opened his eyes. "How are you? What do you feel?" Lu Yifan asked. "Did you receive any information?" Zhang Song inquired. "Wow. You finally woke up. Do you see what time it is?" "We were about to head home," Sukin teased, turning to look at the quartz clock on the wall. It was already 5:50. Zhang Fan asked, "Has time passed so quickly? I felt like it was only a few minutes." "I didn't receive any information." "Did you send it?" "Great. We wasted an entire afternoon." They watched as the elder practiced. Sukin joked, "It's not entirely in vain. At least Zhang Fan showed us that a person can autonomously enter a hibernation state. Although his brain is quite special, it is still a human brain. Structurally no different from ours. If he can do it, theoretically, we can too." Lu Yifan summarized. "Yes, if we thoroughly study this issue. Its significance may be even greater than our understanding of how information is processed in the human brain." Zhang Tsong agreed. Sukin curiously asked, "How do you enter this state? Did you really learn it while playing the game?" Zhang Fan pondered and recalled, "I suppose so. I haven't practiced outside the game." He then recounted the process of his cultivation in the game, which left the three of them amazed. By the time it was 6:30, it was too late to continue the experiment. Zhang Fan and the others agreed to continue the next day, and they all left the company together. The next day, for convenience, they fixed the gaming pod used for the experiment, making it more comfortable to lie down. Once Zhang Fan entered the hibernation state, it would be easier to control the temperature for awakening. After silently reminding himself, Zhang Fan was able to control himself to transition from the state to awakening in half an hour. They conducted 6 consecutive experiments, trying out several plans designed by Lu Yifan and the others, but Zhang Fan felt no response at all. They had been conducting such experiments for months, having failed too many times to count, and had long since gotten used to it. They sat together to analyze the reasons. "I think it might be a signal strength issue. His brain is extraordinary, and perhaps the signals we send are too weak and get automatically filtered out." Sukin said, "That's not accurate. Zhang Fan's brain sensitivity is higher than that of an average person. Even subtle sound signals can catch his attention. His acceptance range should be larger. It might still be our approach that's flawed." Zhang Tsong disagreed. In that state, his brain activity level drops to a minimum, which is actually not conducive to forming memories. Ultimately, memory in the human brain relies on chemical reactions within the neurons, and there should be a certain level of activity. Lu Yifan expressed his opinion. This viewpoint was agreed upon, and they readjusted the experimental plan. Thanks to Zhang Fan's precise control over his brain, he could quickly enter various states, making the experiments proceed more smoothly than before. With the plan adjusted, the number of experiments increased. The brain's activity level is typically divided into 4 typical states based on brain wave frequency. 13 to 40 Hz for focused attention and tension, 8 to 13 Hz for relaxed, divergent thinking, 4 to 7 Hz for perception with blurred consciousness, indicating light sleep, and 0 to 4 Hz for deep sleep, where superficial consciousness ceases activity. Each of these states can be further subdivided into several stages, with special gamma waves above 40 Hz. They formulated different experimental plans for each stage and conducted experiments one by one, which clearly was not a task that could be completed in a day. In the following period, Zhang Fan decided to participate in their experimental work every day, no longer staying at home all the time. He himself was feeling a bit bored with the daily routine. It seemed that not everyone could be a recluse. Chapter 118. Breakthrough currently. There are 2 types of research on brain perception. One is through patch electrodes to detect brain waves using non-invasive devices. The downside is that the signals are imprecise and have a high misjudgment rate. At present, it can only sense brain waves and has no effective method for secure input of external information. The other type is invasive, involving the implantation of chips or electrodes in the cerebral cortex or brainstem. These electrodes are coated with nerve growth factors, which induce neighboring neuronal synapses to grow towards them, forming myelin at the tips of the electrodes. This allows for monitoring the bioelectrical activity of brain neurons at very close distances and can also enable reverse input through discharge forms. The second method not only monitors brain wave activities, but also provides more precise monitoring of the bioelectrical activities of various functional areas of the brain, making it more conducive to analyzing brain activities and researching the functions of different subdivisions. This approach is currently the hottest research direction. This technology has been applied to several paralyzed volunteers, achieving certain progress. After a few months of training post-implantation, they can control a mechanical hand using their thoughts. However, the human body's rejection response to these implanted electrodes and other side effects have yet to find effective solutions. Liu Yifan and Zhang Cong, however, were skeptical of the second method. Based on traditional views, they preferred to use the first non-invasive patch electrode method for research and had made some progress. Additionally, the country has been actively attracting talent in recent years, which led them to return home to start a business together. Fortunately, they encountered Zhang Fan, a person with an exceptionally powerful brain, which seemingly accelerated their research progress significantly, achieving in a few months what would have taken over a decade. With their level of brainwave analysis far ahead of peers both domestically and internationally, this sparked greater ambition in them to research reverse input into the human brain, no longer relying on the five senses, but instead transmitting information into the brain through similar brainwave signals. Perhaps in the future, it could truly enable knowledge transfer as depicted in science fiction and cultivation novels, greatly reducing learning time. After several days of experiments, there had been no substantial progress. The only advancement was that Zhang Fan's control over his brain had become more precise, and his understanding was more comprehensive. After another day of experiments, Zhang Fan suddenly said, "Do you remember Su Xian?" Su Can slapped his forehead and exclaimed, "Oh, we should have thought of that. We really are a bunch of fools. We've hit a dead end. Are you suggesting we simulate Su Xian's brainwave signals and then conduct input experiments?" Zhang Cong asked. "Exactly. These two have been around us for so long. How do we not think of this? We even arranged a telepathy experiment that day." Liu Yifan lamented. "Perhaps at that time, we were still focused on how to input using patch electrodes and didn't think that far, entering a cognitive blind spot." Zhang Cong analyzed. "Should I call Su Xian to come over?" Zhang Fan asked, noting that Gao Hua and Su Xian had already moved to a new office location. "Not yet. We have her brainwave signal records in our database. Let us give it a try first. If it doesn't work, we can talk then. I'll do my best to keep your secret." Su Can winked at Zhang Fan, smiling meaningfully. Their ability to analyze brainwave signals mainly focused on motor nerve signals. The unique case of Zhang Fan accelerated their research progress, and the gaming pod had accumulated a vast amount of data for continuous comparison and correction. Newcomers entering the gaming pod now only required a short adaptation period before they could function normally. Unlike at the beginning, when they had to rely on a tutorial specifically created by Zhang Fan for training. That kind of training was still useful. It had its benefits. If one wanted to respond faster in the game, the tutorial could be used like a martial arts manual, far superior to any traditional teachings, and without the need for any drastic measures. The analysis of thought signals had not made much progress due to individual differences. Zhang Fan's unique case could not be applied to others. His thoughts could be accurately interpreted by the software, something others could not achieve. Through his training tutorial, some individuals could familiarize themselves with the output of numbers and letters like elementary school students, gradually increasing their exposure to Chinese characters and some special symbols, foreign words, etc. Achieving this was much more challenging than going to school. Currently, only a few dozen individuals had reached the level of a first-grade student, while the company had hundreds of people who had undergone training, all of whom were graduates from prestigious universities. Even when outputting the same content, each person's brainwaves were as distinctive as their handwriting. Zhang Fan's were like standard printed text, while most others, even after training, produced chaotic, cursive-like waves that were nearly unrecognizable, much harder to read than the handwriting of young students. The thoughts of ordinary people resembled a blind person trying to write on paper, often resulting in jumbled and overlapping characters, requiring considerable time to decipher. The patterns identified in one person's brainwaves were ineffective when applied to another. However, a small number of individuals, after brief training or even without any training, had brainwaves that were neat and orderly, resembling printed text, making them easy to interpret. Zhang Fan was one of these individuals, as were Su Xian and Liu Yifan. Coincidentally, Zhang Fan's unique brain could also receive Su Xian's brainwave signals and interpret them accurately. Su Xian had been with the company for a few months and had undergone brainwave training in the gaming pod, quickly passing the intermediate test. This test included numerous complex actions, as well as outputs involving numbers, letters, and some simple Chinese characters. The advanced training test encompassed more Chinese characters, English words, complex vocabulary, mathematical symbols, geometric shapes, and so on. The training information was stored on the company's server, similar to a student's homework notebook, containing various signals of these individuals' brainwave characteristics. Liu Yifan and others retrieved Su Xin's training brainwave information and pieced together a few sentences like a collage, conducting another input experiment on Zheng Fan. Wearing a helmet, Zheng Fan this time did not enter any state and easily received the signal. Slowly reading it out word by word. We must remember that our time for learning is limited. Time is limited not only because life is short, but also due to the complexities of human affairs. We should strive to use all our time to do the most beneficial things. It seems that the codes we originally designed were unnecessary, like begging for food while holding a golden rice bowl. These training messages are ready-made treasures. Zhang Tsong, who has always been quite steady, couldn't help but excitedly say. The brainwave signals are extremely weak. With the brainwave activity recorded from the surface of the cerebral cortex being about 500 to 1,500 microvolts, which is 0.05 to 0.15 millivolts, or 0.00005 to 0.00015 volts. The voltage of a dry cell battery is 1.5 volts, and the voltage of a mobile phone battery is 4.2 volts, while the dangerous voltage for human contact is 36 volts. These weak internal brainwaves, after passing through layers of the soft meninges, cerebrospinal fluid, hard meninges, skull, subcutaneous tissue, and scalp, are ultimately sensed by the electrode patches, with further attenuation of several times, making the study of brainwaves quite challenging. The signals sent by the helmet are modulated and amplified hundreds of times under safe conditions, allowing them to be received more clearly. Su Kan, during the helmet experiment, also showed surprise, clearly able to sense and already knowing the answer, which made it easier to verify in reverse. Zhang Tsong and Liu Yifan both tested with the helmet and were able to sense the signals. The four of them were extremely excited, clearly marking a significant breakthrough. Suddenly, Zheng Fan's phone rang. In order to complete this experiment, they had not left work, and now looking at the time, it was almost 8 in the evening. Li Hong called to urge them. After answering the phone, Zheng Fan said a few words and hung up. Tomorrow, Li Hong and I will take our wedding leave. And the wedding is the day after tomorrow. Don't forget to show up. Zheng Fan said to the three who were packing up and preparing to go home. Don't worry, we will be there on time. Su Kan joked. It's your first wedding, we must show our support. Speaking of which, this is our last experiment here. When you return, we will have moved to the new office building. Let us take a group photo to commemorate. Liu Yifan suggested. After taking the photo, they all left the laboratory and went home, finding that the office area outside was empty. Sigh, the quality of the company's employees is concerning. The boss is working overtime, and no one is accompanying him. Su Kan shook his head and sighed, making everyone laugh. When he got home, Su Lu and Su Xin were surprisingly there, helping Li Hong pack things up. Have you eaten? Li Hong asked. There's food left for you in the kitchen. Just heat it up in the microwave. I forgot the time while busy with the experiment. I haven't eaten. Zheng Fan replied. You two really take your time. The wedding is approaching, and you're still not in a rush. I'm the only outsider worrying about it. Su Lu complained. Li Hong hugged Su Lu and comforted her. Thank you for your hard work. Su Xin and Li Hong have been working at the same company for the past few months and often meet, gradually becoming familiar with each other. The initial awkwardness of their first meeting has faded, especially with their mutual friend Su Lu, making their relationship closer than that of typical colleagues. Sister Hong, where are you planning to go for your honeymoon after the wedding? Su Xin asked. Xian, Dolly, Sonia. Li Hong replied. Zheng Fan heated the food in the microwave, took it out, and set it on the dining table to eat. He had been busy since noon and hadn't felt hungry until now, when the hunger became overwhelming. His mind received Su Xin's rich brain wave signals again, which had become much more complex than before. Initially, it was just a simple sentence or a whimsical thought that was clear and easy to understand. Now, he could still sense those thoughts. But they were mixed with emotional undertones, an inexplicable feeling of envy and a hint of melancholy. Could it be that my brainwave sensing ability has become stronger? Or has Su Xin's brainwave training also advanced? While eating, he pondered these questions and, in a hazy manner, seemed to perceive some emotions from Su Lu and Li Hong. Su Lu felt a complex mix of envy, jealousy, and blessings, while Li Hong experienced immense joy and happiness. However, he couldn't grasp their more specific thoughts, perhaps because they were too chaotic or simply untrained. But that wasn't entirely accurate. Li Hong had undergone training, just barely passing the intermediate test, so her brainwave patterns didn't differ much from those of ordinary people. There were dozens of people in the company who had passed the intermediate test, and though Zheng Fan didn't know all of them, he had interacted with most, including Liu Yifan, and never clearly sensed their thoughts, likely due to weak brainwave signals. However, he had just seen Su Xin's brainwave data at the company and listened to Liu Yifan and others analyze it. In terms of frequency, amplitude, and phase, it wasn't particularly special compared to others. It was neither exceptionally strong nor weak, but what stood out was its standard quality, beautiful waveforms that closely resembled his own. Compared to handwriting, it resembled standard script, clear, concise, and aesthetically pleasing. His brain was quite unique, able to receive their brainwave signals. But Su Xian's waves seemed to resonate with him, making it easier to decode them, along with sensing certain thoughts and emotions of those around him. Then another question arose. Before Su Xian joined the company, she likely hadn't received any brainwave training, yet he could clearly receive her brainwave information. Why was that? If this world were a virtual game like Seeking Immortality, then he, Lu Yifan, and Su Xian, with seemingly naturally modulated brain waves, would be external players, while the others might be the game's native NPCs. This sudden thought startled Zhang Fan. Chung had mentioned that his idea was to explore the essence of this world and the origin of life. If he developed this game, it would be more than just a game. It would also be a form of exploration and research into the essence of this world. If this idea holds true, then we, the so-called humans, and those artificial intelligences are merely different in form and vessel, with no essential difference. If this idea is valid, then the operation of this world should be controlled by a higher superintelligence, or a god, overseeing everything. If this idea stands, then the sudden change in my brain after being unconscious for 3 days could also be explained, just like the character from the game who, from obscurity to enlightenment, only needed 1 night. Thus, these sudden thoughts of mine may not necessarily be my own, but could be ideas influenced by higher-level players. When humans ponder, the divine laughs. Some wise individuals have already seen through this. Those historical figures, Laozi, Muhammad, Siddhartha Gautama, Jesus, foolish rulers, tyrants, wise leaders, and even the ordinary people around, might just be lying in game pods experiencing a higher-level game. It must be a far more complex and realistic game. The simulation of Earth by Chung is only at the micrometer level, yet can support multidimensional games for billions of people. If this world is a virtual game, it must be at least at the nanometer level, or even higher, capable of simulating every course trajectory. The computational power required for that is beyond what electronic computers can achieve. Who knows when quantum computers will become practical? Hey, what are you daydreaming about? Are you going to eat or not? Li Hong's voice interrupted Zhang Fan's endless musings. Oh, I just finished. Zhang Fan snapped back to reality, quickly finishing his meal before Li Hong took the bowl away. I heard from Li Hong that you've been busy with experiments at the company lately. Preparing to create some great invention? Su Lu asked curiously, noticing Zhang Fan still lost in thought by the dining table. Su Xian, sitting nearby, looked just as curious, sharing the same thoughts as Su Lu. Seeing their curiosity, Zhang Fan explained, you all have experienced the game pod, so you should know the principle. It senses the brainwave signals to control the actions of game characters. The brainwaves determine the strength of the character's attributes in the game. I'm quite skilled in it. Su Xian couldn't wait to chime in. Don't interrupt. Should we listen to him, or you? Su Lu scolded, and Su Xian stuck out her tongue, making a face. Currently, the game pods can only sense brainwaves, and feedback to the user is primarily through sight, sound, and touch, with smell as a supplement, while taste relies on imagination. The realism is still insufficient. Recently, we have been researching brainwave input, transmitting information into the human brain in the form of brainwaves. Does this mean that in the future, we can play games like Dreaming? No longer needing devices like retinal projectors or bone conduction headphones. Li Hong joined their conversation after finishing tidying up in the kitchen. Chapter 120. Su Xian Zhang Fan was initially quite excited about their breakthroughs, but the series of divergent thoughts earlier had somewhat diluted that excitement. Li Hong's question made him feel he had wasted so much precious time, which felt almost like a crime. We've just made a small breakthrough, but we're still far from applying it to the gaming pods, said Zhang Fan, feeling frustrated. What breakthrough? Say something we can understand. Su Lu replied, displeased with Li Hong's interruption, giving her a glare. Today we can share some information. Compared to the past when we were completely in the dark, this is already a huge breakthrough. Speaking of this breakthrough, it's mainly thanks to Su Xian. Zhang Fan remarked, glancing at Su Xian. Me? Su Xian exclaimed in disbelief. What have I done? Zhang Fan originally didn't want to tell Su Xian about the telepathy, likening it to invading someone's privacy and then making them feel awkward again. However, since it was related to the experiment, it would be hard to keep it a secret later, so it was better to come clean early. After hearing Zhang Fan's explanation, Su Xian was once again surprised, her face turning bright red. Su Lu laughed heartily without restraint, while Li Hong smiled silently, shooting Zhang Fan a glare. After the initial shock, Su Xian remained very excited, too shy to look at Zhang Fan, and ran away covering her face. Su Lu quickly followed her out, laughing as she said, don't worry, she has a childish personality, she'll be fine in a bit. Tomorrow, wait for me to go with you. I'm your wedding planner. To prepare for Li Hong's wedding, Su Lu had taken a few days off from her broadcasts. Over the next couple of days, she would be fully involved in the wedding preparations and overseeing the event. That night, without a broadcast, she shared a bed with Su Xian. Watching her roommate sulking with her lips pouted, she teased, "What kind of embarrassing thoughts do you have that you're so upset about? That Zhang Fan is too annoying. He saw me make a fool of myself and didn't he say anything? I hate him." Su Xian shouted, not knowing how many times she had done so since returning. "You should be thankful it was Zhang Fan and not someone else." Su Lu tried to console her. "Thankful for what? Thankful that he saw all my thoughts and made me feel naked? And he hasn't told me, keeping it a secret all this time. I hate him." Su Xian exclaimed. "All right, stop shouting. The neighbors might call the police." Su Lu managed to suppress her laughter. "How will I face people at work now? I want to quit." Su Xian declared. "If you quit, where are you going to find such a good job? Your company is one of the most promising in the world right now, and you're a senior employee. There will be stock options in the future, right? Besides, you've become the breakthrough point for their research. Don't act impulsively, young lady." Su Lu knew she was just speaking out of anger, but still tried to dissuade her. What's even more annoying is that he told Lu Yifan, Su Kan, and Zhang Tsong about it, and they're secretly using me for experiments. No wonder they were acting so mysteriously that day. I hate them. Su Xian was about to shout again when Su Lu covered her mouth. After struggling for a moment, she gave up. It's rare to find a kindred spirit in life. You are much luckier than others, so what is there to be upset about? But he's getting married soon. So what if he is getting married? Does that mean you can't be friends or confidants? We're not even friends. He's not interested in me at all. How do you know he is not interested? We have known each other for so long, and he has never taken the initiative to talk to me, not even once. Su Xian said indignantly. Haha. It seems that what really bothers you is this. I'm not as pretty as Hong Jia, nor as charming, but I'm not that far off either. Is it really not worth his attention? Su Xian vented, revealing deep-seated feelings she hadn't noticed before. This just shows you have great appeal. He doesn't want to make a mistake, so he is avoiding you. Su Lu empathized slightly. Is that so? Su Xian questioned. There are plenty of scumbags in this world. If someone else could sense all your thoughts, would they let you go? If you were a man and there was a beautiful woman whose thoughts you could perceive, what would you do? Su Lu countered. Su Xian really put herself in Zhang Fan's shoes and thought for a moment. If I liked her, I would definitely find a way to win her over. If I didn't like her, I would keep my distance because having someone nagging in your ear all day is so annoying. Then why quit your job? What are you afraid of? You're afraid of him, and he annoys you. Just hang around him all day. If he finds you annoying, he won't know what to do about it. Isn't that a perfect way to get back at him? Su Lu encouraged. Ah, Sister Lu, you make so much sense. This is called a gentleman can be deceived. With someone else, it might not work. You'd have to run as far away as possible. Let us do it this way. I must get my revenge. After venting, with her worries lifted, Su Xian quickly fell into a deep sleep. Su Lu, on the other hand, tossed and turned for a long time before gradually falling asleep. Nowadays, weddings can cost the wealthy millions, tens of millions, or even hundreds of millions, just to create a grand scene and unforgettable memories. Some people, on the other hand, prefer simplicity and want to minimize hassle, making things as straightforward as possible to save the couple from unnecessary stress and cut down on expenses. The quality of marriage is not directly related to the wedding. Many weddings are mixed with too many unrelated entanglements, losing their purity. Many grooms and brides do not have complete control over their wedding arrangements. They can only become tools to be manipulated, while still needing to maintain a cheerful demeanor. Fortunately, Zhang Fan and Li Hong can take charge of their own wedding without interference from their parents or anyone else. There are couples who enjoy grand occasions and don't mind the hassle, just as there are many newlyweds like Zhang Fan and Li Hong who prefer simplicity and ease. When they arrived at Beihu Resort, it was already past 2 in the afternoon. They set off later and had met up with Zhang Wenna and Sun Erxi, who were driving a small van filled with various props for setting up the venue. A wedding had just taken place in the banquet hall, and the staff were busy cleaning up the aftermath, leftover food from dozens of tables, wine bottles, and drink containers. The wedding company was dismantling the decorations. Many items could be reused, moving from one place to the next since wedding setups were quite similar everywhere, making it unnecessary to waste resources. Zhang Wenna and her husband were waiting in the banquet hall for the setup. Zhang Fan, Li Hong, and Su Lu drove to the villa entrance, took the room cards they received, opened the door, and moved their gifts inside. This 2-story villa would serve as their temporary wedding home, where they would stay for 3 days. After the wedding, they planned to go on a honeymoon trip to various destinations from north to south, including Xi'an, Dali, and Sanya, with all hotel arrangements already made. This time, no one would disturb them, and it would be a true couple's getaway. Chapter 121. At the wedding, the villa was specifically prepared as a temporary wedding home, and the resort staff had decorated it according to their requests, with flowers, ribbons, balloons, and double happiness symbols, creating a festive atmosphere and saving them a lot of trouble they only needed to enjoy their stay. The living room on the second floor was airy, with large semicircular balconies at both the front and back. The southern balcony offered a direct view of the resort's garden. while the northern balcony showcased the beautiful scenery of the nearby reservoir. The bedroom was arranged like a wedding suite, featuring a large double bed with festive red sheets, comforters, and pillows. Above the headboard hung a wedding photo of them over a meter tall, while red paper cutouts of double happiness adorned the walls, doors, and dressing table. Several red ribbons with happiness symbols were draped from the ceiling. Oh dear, everything is set up, and as the chief planner, I have nothing to do, Sulu exclaimed. Let us help out in the banquet hall later. It's nice here, we don't have to do anything ourselves. Li Hong replied. When will the wedding dress you rented arrive? Zheng Fan asked. It's scheduled for tomorrow morning at 8, along with the makeup artist. Li Hong answered. My third brother has prepared the guest gifts, which are at Grandpa's house, and they'll be delivered tomorrow morning with the flowers. Li Hong's phone rang. It was her two close friends, Wang Dandan